We've been waiting for this moment. Generations of innovation all coming together in one place. The pedigree of more than 70 years of NASCAR Cup Series history, from the past to the present, from Petty to Earnhardt to Elliott. Today, there's no more waiting. The future of NASCAR is now. Drive the next-gen cars today on iRacing and step into the next generation of racing.
Nu är vi live.
Welcome to European Eracing and the European Eracing League, in the premier NASCAR league for European citizens. Tonight it's time for the final of our next gen series, which is run here at Charlotte Motor Speedway, located in North Carolina, USA, just outside of Morrisville. Nicknamed America's Home for Racing, or the Beast of the Southeast. The track is notorious for its even asphalt, which often creates problems with tires and makes it difficult to drive. In combination with long races, it becomes a real challenge to master it. This is historical grounds we're at tonight. 24-degree curves, and the straightaways is banked 5 degrees. This arena opened up in 1959 and it holds 140,000 spectators. It's a 1.5 miler and it's a quad oval type. And the track record in real life is set by Kurt Busch in 2014 with 27 seconds and 17 hundredths of a second. My name is Jonas Force and I'm here remotely with Eastern Studio, which are located in Stockholm, Sweden. And I will be later hand over to our friends at RaceBot. And I will be handling the post-race interviews and post-race and season analysis here with my friend Nicholas. Hi, Nicholas.
Hello. Should be a fun race tonight.
I think so too, right? And why don't start with taking a lap around this track with Rickard Allard, who is currently racing tonight too.
Yeah.
Rickard here at Charlotte in a test race that were driven in this Monday. So the draft will play a big role here, Nicholas, at this track. You will actually lift a little bit into the corners at Charlotte with the next-gen car, with
Even with the cold tires?
with cold and new tires, you still lift a little bit, and the more the tires wear out, the more you have to lift, of course. But draft and working together with your friends will be crucial here tonight, so find a partner to draft with. We also are facing a 14-car field tonight, so there will be a risk of losing the top pack if they can group up and work together and be careful. As you can see here, when Rickard goes down on the bottom line here all by himself, he just gets passed on the outside first by number 42 and then 140, and now number 13 will burst through on the outside of him. No problem at all. So you need to find your positions and find your track position too quite right. And yeah, there's a picture of me. We're still working with the camera, and you, Nicholas.
Yeah.
So tonight, I think that tire strategy will be. We got fuel runs of 45 laps to 50 laps. I think if you're very, very careful with your tires, you can make them hold 55 or 60 laps.
Yeah.
But we're looking at the tire window of
And we're
45.
200 laps, right?
200 laps. We're at this track. The community voted to shorten the race by 50 laps, and I mean 200 laps is more than enough at this track, I'd say.
Yeah, and given the fuel runs, and I think it'll be a lot of strategy anyway, so it should be a fun one.
Today we will have our qualifying at 5:20, and the race will start at 5:25. The European E-Racing League have been what I would say a large project started by SN Studios and European E-Racing at all, and trying out the next gen car have been quite an experience, I'd say.
Yeah.
The organizers wanted to try out this brand new car that NASCAR and iRacing released during the spring this year. We haven't passed the New Year's Eve yet. Yeah, the drivers are looking into cars that are a little bit more, let's say, less downforce, more horsepowers, and the last week NASCAR did. Yeah, exactly. Last week NASCAR did some tests with adding up. I think it was 125 horsepowers to this package. So rounding up somewhere just above 620 or 625, and shortened the rear spoiler with 2 inches. So we're not sure where this car will end up next season, and but a lot of voices have been risen to change car in the European E-Racing League to the Xfinity car, and I don't know if there's a decision on that yet, but I would be surprised if the car change doesn't go into the Xfinity car next season. Yeah. So if you want to join the European E-Racing League, you first and foremost follow our social medias on YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, Instagram, where you can find us at European E-Racing everywhere. And also by our all of these social medias, you'll find our Discord server, and you can have time to chat with some like-minded people. And if you want to compete in this series, you'll need a B license on Oval and 2,500 in iRating. Anyhow, we just want to do a big shout out to the guys at RaceBot that have been doing a phenomenal work this season with helping us doing the referee the in-game stuff, and why not take a look at while they were doing that at Richmond?
Yeah, the highlights. Yeah, let's check it out.
Eracing and the European Eracing League, the premier NASCAR league on iRacing for European citizens. Tonight is time for our 7th round in our Next Gen series, which is run at Richmond Raceway.
And Alexander Eracing, in control of the field, wasn't waiting around for anybody there because the green flag is in the air and he is going to take charge of this race into 1 and 2 for the first time.
He's running in the 5s. He's running quicker than the leaders. There's trouble at the back.
Looks like Fournier has gone round, I'm afraid, and the first caution of the day has already been thrown. The end of 13 laps of racing here tonight. Eric Lundberg back there as well. Let's have a look at what happened to him.
Yeah, I think Lundberg's going to have to apologize because this is the battle for second to last on the track and just dove for the hole and just drove into his left rear quarter panel.
New tyres on, but are those pit stops just going to be too costly is the question, as we've got the car stopped and the caution already. Exactly what you were fearing for them has happened immediately on lap 50.
But the thing is, you don't stop on the racetrack to get the caution flag out here. I'm just mind-boggled about that decision-making. If anything, Daniel is now going to be 3 laps down. Here's the reason for the caution. Wow.
Fournier into the back of Sawicki, and that was a big hit for Dominic Sawicki. We go green once again. The green flag is in the air. Blix has not had a fantastic restart there. It's Alexander Eracing who's going to take the lead into 1 and 2 once again. But every point is going to count at this stage in the team's championship. Caution flag is out once again.
Turn 3 bites again, and the number 6 involved again.
Yeah, Fournier after getting tipped around himself. Alexander Eracing out of the final corner, and a dominant display ends in victory at Richmond for him. But behind in 3rd place, Linus Broston with still 1 round to go is going to clinch the 2021 European E-Racing League.
It feels kind of amazing. I mean, obviously the field wasn't the biggest, but it's a very big relief to have it done even before the final race, if my calculations are right anyway, and it looks like that. So yeah, it's just a massive relief to win the first season of the European E-Racing League.
One happy champion in Linus Broström, who is the driver's champion this season, but the fight goes on for the 2nd place. Eric Blix for Alcatec and HR by Newman Racing is he's been really strong this season, but behind him Marcus Hagman for C Sports Academy, just 5 points in between those guys. There's a drop week that we have to count in on with Alexander Arlson on 4th, also a fast driver, but he'll need more of a miracle, I'd say, Nicholas, if he is going to snatch the 2nd position tonight.
Yeah.
And Jonas Gunnarsson for Team Superior, he's been taking step by step forward, now running 5th in the series. Amazing season for Jonas, I'd say. Daniel Solo in 6th, Tony Ovenen in 7th, Robert Erling in 8th, Andres Selander at 9th, and Gabriel Stö at 10th. That's the top 10 of the series right now, but and here's the rest of your favorite drivers. Anyone that you're going to give some extra attention tonight, Nicholas?
I didn't really know. I think also to see what Daniel Solo or Rick Blix are up to. They're always doing something, but I think the usual suspects,
always
Linus and Arelsson will. I think. But I think Hagman will do well.
Hagman might do well tonight. He's running in the 4C Sports Academy team that's currently running 3rd in this championship. The team's championship, on the other hand, isn't decided yet. And with 50 points lead for 4C Sports, the 2 drivers of Alexander Arlson and Linus Broström needs to finish in the top 10 if Daniel Solo, Andre Selander, or Eric Blix finishes in the 1 and 1st and 2nd position. So it's a must-win situation, I'd say, for Alcatec NHR by Neiman Racing, and they need to snatch a double victory here tonight to advance and take the championship for the teams.
And in the Counter Championship, the Nations Cup, if you will, Sweden.
The Nations Cup.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sweden won this cup, I think, 3 races ago. to Hungary, and France in third position right now, and France might snatch the second position tonight. And I think the country championship and the Nations Cup is one of the funniest spices in this series, actually.
Yeah, I think so too.
But many Swedes have shown up to do this series, and I think that's one of the largest reasons why Sweden is so dominant in the points right now.
Yeah. But let's check out what we are competing for.
Some prizes, some coolers from Cooler Master to the first position, and a case for the second place, and then we have some fans and stuff from Logitech, Nicholas.
Yeah, set of the Pro mice, the Pro headset, and a gaming mouse pad for the winner. The second prize, it's a nice Pro headset and a gaming mice for the third place.
And Cooler Master gave some mices too for the fourth and fifth position, and some more coolers. So, and also the drivers are competing for a total prize pool of 1,000 euros from Eason Studios. So,
yes. But before we hand over to RaceBot, let's watch some quick ads, and we'll be back very soon.
.200 laps of this season remains, and we're soon to go to the final at Charlotte Motor Speedway. Nicholas, I think it's time to hand over to our friends at RaceBot.
Yeah, I think so too. And first, thank our sponsors, and then let's race.
Well, thank you to the ESEN studio. We are here trackside in North Carolina at the Charlotte Motor Speedway for our finale in the European E-Racing League. We've got 200 laps on the timesheets and we're about ready to go for the final race of the season. Lewis McGlade, Connery Maddock in the commentary booth. Connery, the championship is settled. Linus Broström has the top honours sorted. It's all now for a bit of pride and, let's be honest, for a bit of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. We've come to the closing round of the season here at Charlotte, and just as you mentioned that there, Lewis, Linus Broström been so good, so consistent throughout the whole duration of this season that he's been able to get it in the bag, even considering a drop week already before we get racing here at Charlotte. So with the championship win is all sealed, but maybe there are some positions a little bit further down that can be shaken up by the end of today, as it is a relatively long race. A little bit shorter than planned, however, with the reduction in the number of laps that we get to run here, Lewis. But either way, should be an intriguing one.
Yeah, down to 200 laps of racing around this 1.5 mile venue. But the racing around here is always very, very good indeed. Can be very, very tight. Obviously, we know it's flat out in qualifying on the first few laps of a run. We'll slow down a little bit later, of course, with tyre wear. In qualifying at the moment, Eracing at the top of the session, focused on Daniel Solo, who's just coming round 1 and 2 onto the back stretch. And it's not the hardest circuit to qualify at. As I say, it's flat all the way around, but it's about making the most of those thousandths of seconds, about making the most of your warm-up laps onto the real major time lap on the second of the Flyers.
Yeah, that's the usual trend that we see here in at least NASCAR style qualifying with the lone qualifiers and, well, just the technically 4 corners going on here as well. It takes a while for those tires to come up to their operating window, but for Daniel Solo, he won a 30.4 as his first lap time. Of course, we usually see the second go even faster. Eracing still at the very top of the order. Solo will just about get this lap time in by the time this session is done. Let's see what it is.
Across the line, obviously 0.4 of a second off on the first lap. We'll ignore that one. Goes to a 30.096 up into 5th. Eracing then once again looking very good for this pole position. That'll be it sorted. Only one driver didn't set their main fast lap time. That was Martin Kapal down the order. A nice pole position for Eracing then, obviously alongside on the front row with our champion. This track, though, you kind of want to... we're going to see a lot of side-by-side around here, but you do really want to get into single file and play the long game a little bit.
Yep, you really do. And, well, with that, let's take a small little look at your starting grids here, Ewan. It is Eracing on pole position, your championship winner, currently in P2. And, well, that's quite a front row, but you've got them further back.
Yeah, we've got Erling in 3rd position with Gabriel Sturr in 4th position with Daniel Solo caught that lap at the end of the session, and Jonas Gunnarsson put in a lap very, very late to go into 6th place as well. Sawicki in 7th place with Lundberg in 8th. Blixt, a driver who is 2nd in the championship, yet to score a victory in the season. He starts from 9th place with Hagman alongside inside the top 10. Solander and Allard 11th and 12th. 2 further cars on the grid being Daniel Page and Martin Kapal. Not a large grid, but I've said this before time and time again when commentating with Sommel Aurora, you don't need a lot of cars to make a good race. It only takes 2 to tango, and in this 14 cars, honestly, is plenty around Charlotte. We're going to see a lot of slipstream around here.
Yep, I think so as well. As you see the cars there in the distance lining up well, at their typically, well, an angle behind the pace cars. This is one of the circuits where they do that. Here they do that in the real world as well. But we've got 200 laps of racing on the cards here, Lewis. It is a pretty long old slog here at Charlotte Motor Speedway. I think with the 14 cars that we have to run, though, there might be a chance of us going green for a relatively significant portion of this race. I doubt we'll see a bit of a caution fest here today, although I have been wrong. Let's hope I'm not wrong on this point.
Yeah, it's, of course, the more cars you have, the higher likelihood of cautions. But around here, I would very much have wanted to have practiced my green flag pit stops, because it's pretty tricky to get down when you're going around at such a high speed. Again, flat for most of the lap. Later in the run, even later in the run when the tyres have started to wear off, it'll still be pretty much, if you're solo, if you're by yourself, it'll still be flat for a good portion of this 1.5 mile circuit. And what that means is that you're going so fast through 3, then you need to get onto the brakes going into 4 and then hook it down to the pit lane. That is going to be tricky, could cause a couple of problems later on in the race. Also means that strategy is going to be very, very interesting indeed. Although around here we all know that realistically you kind of want to remain in the pack. You don't want to separate too much from it.
Yep, you do not want to do that whatsoever. But we'll see how things evolve over a race of this length. But of course, if we get those significant green flag runs that we're expecting, then we might see the pack start to separate out in the middle of those big stints as the differences in the pit stop phases come to fruition, and we'll see old tyres versus new tyres battling going on as well in the middle of those stints. So a lot to look forward to here today as the pace car comes down in.
Yeah, well, 200 laps on the board, 200 laps of racing. We are underway in our finale here at Charlotte, and Haraldsson's got a lovely, lovely launch already down to turn one. Side by side, of course, is going to remain deep into the pack, and our champion is going to slot into second place nicely. His teammate, however, Robert Erling, decided to smash the apron just a little bit, going through turn one, nice and clean through 1 and 2, onto the back straight.
Onto the back straight for the first time here of 200 laps of racing. Haraldsson still leads for the moment. It's a side-by-side further back through the order, though, involving Erling in P4. There's going to be a 3 wide coming across the start-finish line here in amongst a good couple of cars. They're able to sort out their differences, though. They maintain the 3 wide coming through turn 1 and 2 for the second time in this event. And, well, there's certainly drivers that are not hanging around.
Yeah, Erling got a little bit loose or tight into 3 and 4. I think he tapped the apron again down there. It's what shot him up the circuit, trying to maintain the rear of the car, and then few cars coming through the middle. Great start from Solo to get up into 3rd position at the moment. Blix drops backwards, qualified in 9th, now down to 11th spot as we start to see the single file action towards the front. It is the expected way. They're going to be looking after tyres, obviously saving just a little bit of fuel, trying to extend the first stint as the entire pack, all in one nice shot, goes single file into 3.
Yeah, this is, well, not too many early dramas, not an early yellow at this point. Of course, you know, that 3 wide situation across the start-finish line could have certainly been our first yellow of the day, but these guys know that it's a long race, and, well, they were quickly able to give each other enough racing room and sort out that situation, which is very, very good to see. Jonas Gunnarsson, you see, in 4th place at the moment. He's got Gabriel still looking down, at least a nose to the insides there. But at least not any more threatening than that from the number 16 car. Battling further back, though, we got Marcus Hagman and Erik Lundberg going wheel to wheel. Lundberg on that inside, losing a ton of momentum coming across the dry oval. And, well, it seems like that outside line has a good run of speed here. Let's see how that 17 can hold on to this, though.
Yeah, it's really not easy to pick which line. Normally you want to be fairly low, but of course you're going to be burning out your tyres. You've got to pick your line right, and this is not going to work out for Erik Lundberg, who is just dropping backwards and backwards and backwards. It's not a major drama right now. Outside of him is the 95, and he just makes a little bit of contact, goes straight across the road course infield section, manages to pull it on back to the racetrack, but he's going to lose a heap of time here.
He is as he gets cycled further back through the order. Let's take another look at that one on the replay then, as well, Lundberg almost having a massive incident. Instead, it was downgraded to a massive moment only, as we'll see him wash up in the middle of turn 4 here, just almost getting out into the car on the outside. Very well held, though. If that spin towards the inside continued towards the grass on the infield there, that could have been a very different situation.
Yeah, good car control to get back on it, and to be perfectly honest, has just rejoined onto the rear end of the train. So certainly not out of it for any Erik Lundberg fans. So all well and good at the moment. Refocusing back towards the front as Linus Broström's trying to apply pressure and trying to maybe find a way. Actually, I'd say he's more likely just sat there in second place at the moment. Behind that, though, things are getting a little bit more crazy indeed, as the side-by-side is going to continue. I believe it's Sawicki with Blixt onto the inside of him. Hagman behind, no way to find his way through, as Hagman's actually dropped back a few positions in the recent past.
He has. So all the position changes are happening here in the mid-pack and back, it seems. So there's, of course, Blixit involved in this particular battle at the very back of this pair of fighting cars. You got Stur ahead of this one as well, fighting with Gunnarsson. So Gunnarsson in number 33, attempting to go the long way around the outside. That can work, of course, here at Charlotte Motor Speedway. You can carry the momentum through, get that speed down onto the back straight in particular, but it does, you know, this side-by-side running does tend to bunch up the cars behind, and now we got multiple instances of wheel-to-wheel on the way through 3 and 4.
They've got to be very, very careful with this. Not necessarily for the sense of side-to-side contact. These are all plenty good enough to get away with that. It's more in the sense they might well allow the top 3 to pull away from the group. The reason why they're getting so far away from each other when doing this too wide through the corners is in case if they get too close, obviously you're going to get the side draft. You're going to slow down each of the cars, and That's not good when you're trying to re-catch up the leaders. Once they start going single file again, once they start working together as a group, they'll all start punching a hole towards that front group. But Blixt has made so much progress up into 5th place. Superb stuff, getting past both Hagman and Erling, of course, the teammates of Linus Broström. Really, really good last few laps.
Yeah, making some solid progress in the number 95 car. Now he's tucked on that bottom line, following the front 4 cars around. He's hoping that he can leave these battling cars in his dust at the moment, just let them get on with whatever situation they're trying to figure out back there, and make his own forward progress through up into the podium positions. Looking to the inside, Blixt is looking particularly threatening at this stage in the race. Gunnarson is able to defend it so far. But there's absolutely no separation in the entire pack. Everyone's just still in this 14-car train. Oh, someone's got very, very out of shape in the back there. They're able to hold it, though. Was that that was number 82, Erling? Yeah,
just really struggling with the car there at the moment, and they nearly caught up the likes of Allard as well. So a bit of a dicey moment going through 1 and 2. We'll ride on board with Erling. He's going to be looking to the inside of the 16, but just as he lifts off just that little bit too much, and it might just unsettle the rear end. Actually, there might have been contact, which just tapped him round. Managed to catch it though, but that is a large gap that appeared.
Yeah, and, he's got to be careful not to fall off the back of the train here. He has not, though, although there has been, like you said, a gap developed between him and P number 9 a little bit further down the road. So that's not what you want to see if you're Erling. It's not enough of a gap to be a huge problem at the moment. I think you'll still be able to get the slipstream, especially given all of these cars still fighting up ahead of him. Of course, you know, the track evolution is a thing here in iRacing. The preferred line does change in these NASCAR races over time as more drivers run on one line. That line becomes hotter, and it makes the other lines become much more viable. And, we'll see which line is the best at the moment, because it seems to be pretty level pegging amongst the drivers going on the low line and drivers taking the middle at the moment.
Well, we do have our champion taking over top spot as Arildsson's going to drop back 1, 2, 3 positions. Even Sturz getting past Daniel Solo, who was challenging for second position just a few laps ago up on the top side in the number 13, is also nearly getting past the 24. But it is the 71 heading the field now, pulling a little bit of slipstream down to Hagman, who's got up into second position. These positions are changing left, right and centre all the time now that the top lot have decided that they fancy a bit of side-by-side action.
Yeah, they do. They've been quiet for the first 14 laps of this, but now on lap 15 on to lap 16, that's when the front of the field starts to want and get greedy for track position. Solo on the inside, almost washing up into the side of the 16 there of Gabriel Sturr, but no contact was made. And you can just see now with these front runners starting to go wheel to wheel, everyone else behind waiting in the wings, waiting to strike just in case it all goes a little bit wrong.
I've started racing these. Obviously, they're in normal competition, in official competition. They're at Atlanta at the moment, another 1.5 miles, slightly more abrasive than here at Charlotte. Fantastic fun to race these cars, and you can see exactly why. It's essentially pack racing on a 1.5 miler. It is so much fun, but you have to be so awake. They can't keep this up for 200 laps. You'd have to be taking in an awful lot of caffeine to stay awake through all this. Broström's up on the high side, and he's going to lose a position potentially to Hagman. The lead will go the way of the 12 as the 24, the 13, all bunching up on the inside, going 3 wide once again, potentially into 1 and 2. It is Hagman at the front.
It is. Hagman retakes the race lead. Broström has to be careful not to lose second here as well, because Arildson is starting to come back at him. So Hagman, new race leaders. We've had 3 different race leaders so far in this event. And, Linus does lose that second place. Files back into third. Has Sturr all over the back of him as well, as it's all bunched up this field like an accordion behind him. That entire situation at the front on lap number 19 now, as who's this trying to go around the outside? I think it's Sawicki leading that top train for the moment, getting the slipstream down the back straight off the back of Broström's car as well, which will help that run into 3.
Yeah, I've said, because obviously we can see there's a lot of the Force drivers up here. In fact, they're leading 1, 2 and 3. But when it comes to communication between your teammates in a race like this, honestly, don't do it. Just it is everyone for themselves in a race like this. And the reason is because if you start trying to help everyone out, you start tripping over each other. It's really not very good. You need to kind of just do your own race and let things unfold the way they are. If you're together towards the end of the race, then fair enough, discuss it. But right now, Force looking very, very good indeed. Behind that, Sawicki around the outside of Stir. Allard, who was deposed to the rear of this group in the 302 on the high side, is now back up to challenging for a top 5 position, thus showing that, to be honest, if you just stay in the slipstream, it doesn't matter. All 14 of our cars separated by 1.5 seconds. Of course, the slipstream very much helping here at Charlotte.
Oh, almost a moment on the inside there, car washing up, and careful on the exit as well, as well, we're lap 21 at the moment. You know, towards the end of these stints, these cars do get themselves a little bit sketchy sometimes, so they're going to be less confident coming off the corners as they, well, would be at the very start of one. So maybe we're starting to see some signs already of the tyres starting to slip away a little bit, with some drivers struggling to hold their lines. Hasn't caused too much of a problem just yet, however. But another 10-15 laps, these guys are going to be struggling just that little bit more.
Yeah, and it's just the little overheating on the front right, a little bit of the rear giving away. That's what makes a difference, and that's what's going to start separating the pack. Already the 82, by the way, is starting to drop off the rear end, but that's more down to damage on the rear right. Of course, we saw Erling coming to the inside a little bit and having a bit of a sideways moment in 1 and 2, and it's just damage from that instant. It's just dropping him back slightly. It's not making the car undrivable, but just costing maybe a mile an hour, maybe 2 miles an hour extra on that top speed, and that all adds up on a track like this.
With this current NASCAR package for these cars, it's these 1.5 milers are usually treated a little bit more like a super speedway race than they would do with any previous package. You know, it's just the nature of the racing with this version of the car. So so like you said, it's all about being in the right place at the right time, I get the feeling. Of course, there's the element of the tyre saving coming into it as well, but it's a lot more about the positioning than it is about outright clear air speed at the moment.
Ooh, going up a little bit onto the high side there. That was a little bit sketchy from the number 17 of Lundberg, just to close off Blix, who was up inside the top 5. Now's dropped back down to where Blix started this race in 9th place. Got to worry about Page behind. Got to worry about the 19 that's going to be sat there looking on the high side in that Ford Mustang. But like you say, in a race like this, you've just got to be playing more the strategical game, which I don't think too many are doing. Sawicki to the inside, Solo around the outside to grab 5th.
Yep, and hugging that wall right around the outside, Solo. So he's trying to explore which line is going to be the fastest at this stage of the race here. And, well, it's so important for these drivers to be doing so, trying to find where the grip is out there on circuit. Of course, it's not going to change too much due to there only being 14 cars running. If we had 40 cars running, then that line will be moving all over the place, Lewis. But with 14, it doesn't change all that much. However, it is still worthwhile for you to go searching for that grip.
Yeah, and the only way to find whether there is grip up there is, honestly, to either see someone blast past you, going 3.5 times the speed of light, right around the outside of the circuit, or by just going up there and trying it yourself. It is one of the best things about oval racing in iRacing, is the ability to try and pick a slightly different line that might work. Even if the track hasn't changed that much, it just might work more to the state that your tyres are in at that time, and that's why you have to get out there and experiment and find out. It's why practice around a circuit doesn't really matter too much. It's just experience and seat time.
It really does, and well, a lot of these drivers really do have a whole bunch of experience under their belts. Of course, you know, NASCAR racing usually thought of as quite rightfully in some instances, thought of as a very American sport, you know, because it's NASCAR, you know, woo NASCAR or whatever the situation is there. But of course, you know, there is a huge European contingent on iRacing that love to race these cars, and that is what this series is all about, giving them a sort of more top-level series to race in on a day-to-day basis, instead of having to stay up till 2 a.m., 3 a.m. trying to race in the American leagues for this car.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's what it's about. You know, you've got to find your way into it as a European. I remember speaking to Yaltine, who was doing the Coca-Cola eNASCAR series when he was taking part in that a few years ago. Again, waking up 2-3 o'clock in the morning to take part in that. the idea of having a championship more European focused, but still the same vibe, still doing the same things as the Americans, it is really, really good. And you can see the talent level that we have, considering how well everyone's been doing in the opening, nearly 30 laps of this race here at Charlotte. It is tight around here. It has been hard work for a lot of these drivers, but they are putting on a very good show for us.
And we're coming up on 30 laps of green flag racing since the initial drop of the green flag. Not a caution just yet. I hope I'm not tempting fate in that situation, as I have the tendency to do with the curse of the commentator. But everything seems to be rolling along quite well for the moment. And well, soon we'll be coming up on our first handful of green flag stops, if we get there without a caution. So Sawicki and Sturz, they're still going side by side, by the way. These guys have been certainly fans of doing the battling at this early point in the race. And, well, Sawicki going to be losing a bit of ground on this instance on the way down in towards 10-3. Whoa! Daniel Page almost gets tagged around. He's able to hold on to it, though, in the 19. We stay green.
Yeah, Allard dropping back quite a lot in that as well. Look at the damage on the side of Allard's car, the right-hand side. That is going to be losing a lot of time. We'll take a look at that. It's definitely contact from the low side, looking at the 19 at the moment. And just going around the outside of turn 3 and 4. 17 to the inside, 17 being Lundberg. Lundberg up a little bit high, but, fair enough. It is what it is. I don't know how you'd read into that one, but either way, Page has paid the price.
Very, very well held, though, for Page. He's all the way at the back of the order now, but I think he'd rather have be at the back of the order than be out of this race. Let's just say that. And if there's a quick caution, he'll be able to get back onto this train, maybe get a little bit of the body panels repaired down on the pit lane if that is required. So it's definitely not the end of the race for Page down in 14th place, but he does need a little bit of help with a yellow to get back onto the same piece of real estate as the rest of the drivers. But finishing lap 33 now onto lap 34. Linus Broström, after falling down to third, he's thankful that he hasn't fallen any further since about 15-20 laps ago when he lost the race lead, then lost second place. He's keeping himself in contention here, and Sturr, despite having a good couple of looks here and there, hasn't committed to any of these moves just yet.
Yeah, I mean, the thing with Allard and Page dropping back, now they get to go and play with Erling, who does have that damage from earlier. And so the thing is those are trio, they might actually work to make them all faster, to keep them up with the pack. You can see them there, Erling at the front of the group. It's not great for them, but like I say, it is not disaster stations right now. If they drop back to being a lap down, then it's a problem. But if we get a caution, they can then start to repair those cars. You can see here with Erling's, his car does not look that bad. It really, if you're looking at, going past quite quickly, you think, yeah, it looks fine. There is a slight amount of rear right damage, which we know with these kind of cars. The rear right of this car is so critical to the aero stability of the car. And, if that's poking out a little bit too much, you're creating a lot of drag. It's not as quick.
Last lap, well, we see Erling on his own at the front of this trio running. Last lap is a 31-2. The main pack runners are running low 131, sort of ones, 131 flat. So even running on his own, he's still only about a tenth of a second off the pace, and that could be more than made up for by the fact that he doesn't have a draft.
Sorry, towards the front, Linus Broström.
Broström.
Just caught that on the other screen. Linus Broström's been turned around. Is this going to be our first caution? I don't believe so. Should be able to get back going again. A slight tap on the rear end, which would have come the way from the 16, I believe, of Sturr. Ooh, that's going to make things very, very interesting. His car looks okay, so he'll be back onto pace. But yeah, let's take a look.
So there's the 16 of Sturr, like you say. Oh, just gets up underneath them and turns them through the exit of turn 4. Spinning towards the inside. Broström avoids all the walls, but loses a ton of positions. Now is at 11 seconds off the back of Daniel Page. So Broström from fighting in the top 3 to being dead last.
Yeah, that's closer to a disaster than with the other ones. We'll keep an eye on his lap times, but either way, I mean, he's all settled for the championship, so I'm sure he'll be all right driving around in that. gold-wrapped Chevy NASCAR. I mean, it looks great, but unfortunately looks slightly better normally on the racetrack than being spun around on the exit of 4. Either way, focus back up the order then, as this works in favour of the driver that we're looking at right now. Blixt, who was up in the top 5, back down to 9th, now up into 3rd, and challenging potentially for the race lead.
So those are the positions gained up on your screen right now. Up 9 places is Hagman
wow.
as well. So that's an incredible opening stint for the driver of the number 12. Araldson, of course, was your pole position setter. He's only fallen back that 1 place. But like you said, Blixt up 6 positions. But he's been that +6. He's been ±0. He's been +6 again. You know, he's been really up and down this field. But I think on lap 40 now, establishing himself inside of this front 3. Maybe there's not going to be another trip further down the order for Blixt, as he'll hopefully try to maintain this position now. But sometimes things just don't go your way, and well, the battling behind certainly going Blixt's way at the moment, as Solo and Stir are slowing each other up just that little bit.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, he could be doing with a little bit of assistance from his teammates here just to pull Stir off of the rear end. That's exactly what Daniel Solo is doing right now. But it does seem that Andre Solander is also going to create the same issues for Stir, and he's going to drop him behind. And so we'll get 3 Alcatech and HR cars moving their way forward, now up inside the top 5, as once again, very close on the extra of 4. That's pretty much identical to what happened to Linus Broström.
Yeah, so Solo up into the wall, and he's lost all of the momentum as well. And this is what can happen if you're just a little bit off the pace due to a bit of contact. You have that freight train down the inside, and now with the number 33 on the inside, that's Gunnarsson almost washing up through the exit of the corner. Solo is going to be hoping that he can recover positions and quickly, as we'll take another look at that situation. We're going to have to wind it back just that little bit further to see this in its full form. But there is Solo leading that 3-car battle, and then just sort of washes up through the middle of the corner. We'll get to see that there, and it's so difficult to avoid the wall once you feel that car just start to push and push and push. You're seeing that wall on the right-hand side come up as faster and faster and faster, and you're just hoping and praying that you're able to back out enough to be able to avoid it.
Yeah, touche. I thought Stur had been into the side of Solander, but no, it was also Solander's just trying to get off of his teammate who's gone up towards the wall. Not the worst thing in the world, but here's Blixt getting up into second, potentially on the low side in 1 and 2. The 24 taking that high line. Arilton starting from pole position. Started great for the 24. Looks like he might be able to hang on in second position at the moment.
Yeah, Arilton fending off the defense, fending off the offense, excuse me, from Blixt. And of course, that's work done by Blixt's teammates a little bit further back through the order has given him a little bit of breathing room to try and challenge for P2. He doesn't have that pressure from behind, so Blixt looking very, very good at this stage in the race. I don't think that was the last little nose to the inside he'll get on Arilton. In fact, he might almost try and get it off of turn 2 there. Definitely almost ran him all the way through the corner. And now in towards turn 3. Hagman still leading this race, of course, has done for the past while. Arilton hasn't really challenged him too much, though. I think Arilton's sort of more concerned about Blixt at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, just going to say, Solander, the speed that Solander closed up into this group set a lap time 3.5 tenths faster than the group ahead. Now, yes, of course, that's because he's got slipstream and a lot of space to work into, but still, that's what's closed it up, and that's what's telling me that the likes of Stur, Kapal, Gunnarsson, Sawicki, they are not out of this yet. They are likely to become back a part of this battle. Kapal, though, who started from 14th position, by the way, is now challenging Stur to get inside the top 5. Our focus with our race leaders, Arilton back to the front, Hagman behind, Blixt, Solander, and now Kapal.
Another swap for the race lead as we're on lap number 47. And, well, those tyres have been on those cars since the start of the race, so it's starting to get a little bit worn, a little bit tired at this stage. And soon we'll see some signs of drivers coming down in. But not for the moment, though, as we've got... Linus Broström came down in, however, and he came down... I think he's just trying to do a little bit of timing shenanigans here. It seemed to be a pretty regular stop, 14.5 seconds. So I think he's decided, okay, with that spin, especially towards the inside, I've probably overheated my tires. Let's just get some fresh ones on, try and go off cycle here to try and recover something from this race if it goes green.
Yeah, Daniel Solo also has been into the pit lane a couple of laps before for what I'm assuming is the same reason, maybe a little bit of damage repair on Solo's part, as we've still got side by side here. This is Stur Kapal on the inside in that 64 car, trying to wrestle 5th position off of the 16. Got to watch out for Gunnarsson as well behind in the number 33 Toyota Camry to the inside at 1 and 2. The 16's dropping backward a little bit. Stur just not making the most of his tyres at the moment. Did wonder if he's been using them quite a lot. Was racing very aggressively with everyone, and that's his right to do so, but I think he might have just overcooked his tyres in doing so. The gap now to the top 4 ends up being 2.1 seconds to the race leader, so 1.5 seconds to the group ahead. They are starting to lose touch, and we know this group is plenty fast enough. Linus Broström, by the way, did come out ahead of the first, second, third, fourth battle, so he is only 1 lap down, not 2.
So important as if we get a yellow now, then it isn't an awful situation for Broström, because he will get the lucky dog if the yellow were to come out now, so he can get himself back on the leading lap. Albeit on a couple of lap old tyres, which is not ideal, but still, I'd rather be on the leading lap than to be 1 or even, like you said, 2 laps down at any point. So. Not the ideal day for Linus, but he doesn't really need an ideal day at the moment. He already has the championship in the bag, so perhaps just racing out there for a little bit of fun at this stage. But either way, 13th at the moment is the position he resides in, and we've seen some decent separation in this pack, like you mentioned, as this battle for P5 with being led by Kapal at the moment, now 1.8 seconds, almost 1.9 seconds adrift of Salander and that leading 4-car train.
And so now our question goes to the strategy of the race. Can they get through the race? I believe they can get through the race quite easily, to be honest, on 2 stops. Because I'm pretty sure the pit lap is around about 60 or so. Yes, of course, it's 200, so you're going to be 20 short if you just do it on every 60, because you end up your final pit stop end up having to be on 180, which does make it a 3-stop race. So if you can save a few laps of fuel, if you can get it up to 66, 67 laps in a stint. I'm not quite sure how close they are to doing that, but that's why you'll see them sit in line.
Yeah, it could possibly be the case. I mean, we threw around the idea before this race started, Lewis, that this we might get some considerable green flag runs, and well, I think this is definitely one of them coming towards the end of the
contact.
Yeah, well, the car's coming towards the pit lane, in fact. Maybe a little bit of confusion on that one, as it is Blixt, Salander, and Gunnarsson all down in. Of course, the 2 teammates there coming down in together on the same strategy, but that is your first green flag stop starting now. The 302 also down in as well. None of the race leaders, apart from, of course, Blixt with that and Salander with that call, have come down in. It's Alton, Hagman, Stur, Sawicki all remaining out there on lap number 53, but they're coming down in on lap number 54.
That answers my fuel questions then, doesn't it? 54 laps is roughly what we're expecting. There we go. I was talking to the idea of maybe doing it in 66. Completely wrong on that one. I will say the 17 was hard into the barrier. Lundberg, who is into the pit lane now in 7th spot. And there will be a lot of damage on the front right of that car. It was a very heavy hit, just avoiding some of the carnage.
Oh,
and I
Hagman.
wonder... Yeah, what happened
He's missed
there?
his box. He's missed his box. Hagman's missed his box. He has to go back out there and go for another slow in lap if he has the fuel.
That is a disaster. That's going to be really, really tight. If he doesn't have the fuel to do it, this could be the end of, well, potentially the early end of Hagman's race. He's going to touch the apron as well.
Oh, just about hangs on to it.
Oh, my goodness. What a terrible couple of laps for Marcus Hagman. Was battling towards the front. Will have to drag it down onto pit lane, and this time cannot afford to miss his box. I did wonder if they were going to have a few laps of fuel left in the tank, and they're just calling it and quartering the race. But Hagman back into the pit lane. He is definitely losing sight of the pack.
Yep, he is. He had to go out for that extra in lap, and that's going to lose him a ton of time. I'm not sure how far it'll drop him back, but either way, not the situation there for Hagman. I think it's because he came down in the race lead, and he started so far down the order that you know, because he's been in a race lead for such a long time that he thought his pit stall was probably down near the front of the pit lane, and it just wasn't. So let's have a look at the replay here. Let's just cycle things back just that little bit further to see exactly the situation here for Hagman. So he's going to come trundling down the pit lane. His pit box has already gone at this point, by the way. He's thinking, okay, I've been in the lead. Where's my pit box? It should be the front couple of ones, right? And then just realizes his mistake.
Yeah, that is not great. I mean, Hagman, of course, his box would have been the 10th one. He qualified in 10th place, so it would have been the 10th from the front. But it is honestly so easy to forget, to miss it, especially when you think, oh, like you say, you're absolutely right. You've gone past only 5 boxes, and there's your box. Wait, hang on, that doesn't make any sense. I've been leading most of this thing. Erling into the pit lane as well. So Blitzed will actually cycle his way out to the front of the field, it seems.
Yep, that will be your race leader once those. Once this little pack comes past Erling, who resides on the pit lane right now. So coming on to lap number 60, Blitzed will be your race leader at this stage after the first green flag stops, and well, quite a dramatic set of first green flag stops, let's just say that. Erling, where's he going to come out in relation to everyone here? 6th place now, down to 9th place as more cars pass him out there on circuit. Remember, you know, with the pit lane rules here on a lot of oval tracks now, where you have to just remain on that apron all the way down towards the back straight. That was at least when I was racing a good few years ago in the oval categories. That never used to be the case. You used to be able to rejoin pretty much straight away and cause huge problems for people behind, but not anymore as Erling cycles out in 10th place.
Yeah, no, I've seen that issue firsthand. I've been on the racetrack when someone just decides to dart out of the pit lane and jump straight onto the inside line at the first corner. It is terrifying. And the system that we have now, where you got to stay on the apron all the way around 1 and 2, it's a fine system. It works. And don't fix what ain't broke. Focus then on our race leaders. We have 3 of them, the 95, the 140 and the 33. Suzuki Stir in their own little group behind this before a slightly larger group. But this is the thing where now we've got a few cars a lap or 2 down. Things become a little bit more interesting, a little bit more confusing in these groups, because you've got people battling for positions around you, battling for your own positions.
And just as we swapped away from the race lead, Salander goes to the pointy end of the field. So new race leader once again here at the Charlotte Motor Speedway on coming on to lap number 62 of racing. Still, a limit of 200 that we'll have to get to, but we are getting a good chunk of them done already with no yellow flags so far in this one. There's Daniel Page, by the way. He's continuing on the recovery drive here after issues early on, and up to 7th place for the moment. So this pit stop phase kind of worked out in the favor here of Daniel Page. Of course, he actually decided to commit just to a few more laps on the older tires compared to everyone else. Now has a fresher tires by a handful of laps than everyone else. So he pushed the fuel out just that little bit longer than everyone else. Let's see how that works out for him later on in the race if we go green all the way.
Yeah, the problem is around a track like this, you either want to extend it enough to save yourself a pit stop or come in when everyone else does, because you don't want to be separated too much from the group. You have to treat it a little bit like, as you said before, Super Speedway racing. Super Speedway racing, whether you want to or not, if the entire pack comes in and you've got 5 laps of fuel, you've got to come in as well, because you can't lose that group. And that's kind of where you need to run your strategy around everyone else's strategy, and it's where you need things like spotters and stuff to at least fill in the picture for you and help out. It's not easy. It is not easy running the strategy around a circuit list, because things happen so fast, and that is why we saw the instant when this team, when they were coming down onto pit lane with Blix and Solander, and we saw the issues. We saw Lundberg going up into the barrier, because everything happens so quickly.
It really does, and you have to put yourself in a position to capitalize on things going wrong. Like, for example, Hagman missing his pit stall. You could never count on that happening, ever. But it did, and of course, Blix and Solander were in that leading pack to be able to capitalize on that one. Gunnarsson also tagging onto the back of this trio as well. He sort of hung around for a bit and stuck around, and, well, look at where it's got him, inside the top 3 leading pack here in the early stages of this race, this finale at the Charlotte Motor Speedway. And there's still lots more in this race yet to come. Let me tell you that. Even though we have this 3-car breakaway at the very front of the field, there's still plenty of things that can change. Another 3-car train here for 4th place, sitting about 4.5 seconds behind the race leaders.
Yeah, it's the reminder is that of those race leaders, the 3 that we have out front, none of them have won a race in this season, so they're all looking for their first. Blixt, who's running second in the championship, of course. Linus Bostrom's way too far ahead in the point scores to win, so that's why the championship is sorted. But Blixt does have the focus on the fight between himself and Marcus Hagman, of which things are looking very, very good for Blixt at the moment, whilst potentially battling for his first win in the final race.
Yeah, it's certainly, the mathematics certainly working out in the favour of Blixt. I'm having a look at the second pack, though, because you would have thought this was a battle for position. It's not. There's Hagman in that number 12 car, the car that had the problems on the pit lane last time. Well, he technically leads this 3-car train, however, not for position. He's down in P11. Sawicki and Stur, the cars behind him, are for position for P4 and P5 at the moment. So let's see how... I think Sawicki and Stur probably thankful that Hagman's helping them out here in terms of running in a bit of a pack, as you do tend to run a little bit faster in a pack than you do on your own, especially with this package and at circuits such as this one. But it's still a 4.5 second gap to the leaders, which starts to get a bit concerning. That's a pretty big gap in oval racing terms.
It is, it's to the point where it's very much, unless a caution comes out or some dramatic strategy, it does seem very much like a 3-horse race. Although Sawicki, we'll keep an eye on it. We'll say it's around 5 seconds at the moment, 4.9, 4.8. It's in that margin, but this is where, like you say, they can use Hagman. Yes, he's on better tyres, but he might just pull them along just a little bit, and that could be absolutely critical later in this race. Another couple of cars battling as Arlton dropping the position to Daniel Page, who's marching forward once more.
Yeah, Page starting to come alive in this second stint of the race. Fantastic to see, especially especially considering the problems that he had earlier on. Arlton perhaps doing the opposite here, as he was pole position sitter, led for a portion of this race, but back through the field he is right now, and continuing to try and recover from this one. But it's always this race was always gonna be a tough race for pretty much everyone here, Lewis. It's the Charlotte Motor Speedway is one of those slightly trickier tracks due to how fast the walls on the outside of this place come up on you off the exit of the corners. It's so tough to keep yourself out of those. Plus, it tends to be the longer race of the season as well. Think about Coke 600. So it is quite an endurance event, even though there aren't really any endurance events in NASCAR. But you know what I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah, no, to be fair, I was actually having a discussion with this with a couple of people at the weekend about taking part in things like the Daytona 500 or the Coke 600. When you're talking of this many laps around a circuit like this, you have to be prepared. It is like an endurance race. You're talking 3, 4, sometimes even a couple more hours. We're not talking that this race is 3 or 4 hours, maybe aiming for the 2-hour mark. But 3 or 4 hours in a car is hard work by yourself. When you need to go to the loo, when you need to go and get food, drink, you can't do it. You've just got to accept that you're going to the checkered flag, buddy. Just keep going. It's really, really hard, on the mind, on the body, on everything, even in the sim. So, in my book, this classifies as a race of endurance.
Yeah, I think so too. That's for sure. I remember when I did a lot of NIS racing way back when. The Coke 600s was the race that took the most out of you. Let's just say that, because you think, what about the Daytona 500? What about races at Talladega, full-length races and things like that? That's nothing compared to a long race here at Charlotte. Let me tell you that it is very, very not only physically taxing, but also mentally taxing as well. Just watching those laps go by, especially on a very, very long green flag run like we've had since the very start of this race. Everything just becomes a little bit of a blur, and you let your guard down a little bit in some instances. You get that tunnel vision, which is what we talk about in endurance racing. Getting into the evening hours on the road side of things. There really is certainly an element of that in races like this one. Of course, we're not going for a full Coke 600 length here today. That would be quite excessive, I think. But either way, it is still a long way until the checkered flag at this point, and the fatigue is certainly going to come into it.
Oh yeah, always with the races. I mean, you think of it this way as well. You do an endurance race at say Daytona, running the road course, or that certain French a race circuit that I've heard so many things about. Places like that, you've got a lot to think about in the race. You're throwing it over the curbs this way, you're throwing it over the curbs that way. You've got traffic to think about. You've got this, you've got that. You've got stuff keeping you awake. In a race like this, you don't have anything keeping you awake. You've just got, I'm turning around the same left-hander that I've been through, and essentially very similar to the other left-hander that I've just been through for the 150th time now. Cool. It is very mentally draining, and especially on a track like this where your margin for error is not large. We've already seen a few cars go up into that barrier on the high side of the corner, particularly on the exit of 4. Now, the thing with that is if you get some damage, like if we compare it to Arlton, who was our pole sitter, has some front right, I think a bit of front left damage as well, has a little bit of damage on the car either way. Now that is going to be slowing his car down. There's nothing he could do about that right now, absolutely nothing. And even in a pit stop, you might not be able to repair it to its fullest, i.e. you have to keep the car perfectly clean for 2 and a bit hours. Yeah, no thanks. I'm a touring car driver. That isn't happening.
Yeah, I remember, I think it was the second Coke 600 I ever did on iRacing, where I somehow kept it clean, like you said, until the last 30 laps, where we had a late race caution, which is always a sketchy predicament in any NIS race, let me tell you that. But, kept it clean, kept it consistent, whatever. Starting, I think it was second or third, I think it was. I'm thinking, okay, I could possibly win a Coke 600 in my split right here. Like, this is crazy stuff. And it wasn't an insignificant split either. So I was like, quite nervous. And then a few laps after the start, racing too hard, I get squeezed up into the wall, get a bit of right side damage, and I was off the pace for the rest of the 20 laps that we had to run. It's only that little minor bit of damage that can absolutely demolish your race. And like you said, you can't always get it fixed in the pit stop.
Yep, I did I did 50 laps of the Daytona 500 earlier in the year, and I was like, nope, because we got involved in a fair crash, and it's just to the point where you know that the damage that you have is unrepairable, and you're going to be a second, 2, 3, 4 seconds slower than everyone else a lap, which just means that you're never going to be battling at the race lead. To battle through that and to race, to continue racing past that point is, anyone that can do it, that can reach the checker flag with that level of damage. Respect to you, not in the sense of getting a vehicle around the circuit is particularly difficult when it's like that, because it's not hard. It's just the mental punishment of continuing in a race under those circumstances is so taxing indeed. And I think we've already got a couple of cars that might, well, not quite in that boat, not quite aggressively in that boat, but 2, 3, 4 tenths slower in their cars every single lap. And it's going to be a hard run for them unless we get a yellow.
Here's Daniel Solo towards the very back of the order. His stop time was pretty lengthy as well. It's 54 seconds. He came down in around about, he came down in about 10, 15 laps before everyone else. So it's, it was a long stop as well, 54.8. So that's why he's towards the bottom of the order and is not running incredibly quick either. So for Solo, that's a very, very big problem that he'll have to be carrying throughout the rest of the race. Hagman, of course, still out there, still cycling, albeit a lap down. Didn't get any damage, of course, but we saw his drama coming off of pit lane, at least with the first time of trying, shall we say. So he's hoping that there's a yellow on the horizon, because he will be the car that gets the lucky dog.
Yeah, this is the thing. There's a few cars right now that might be going from 1 lap down to a couple. The 17 is the next one to be lapped for the first time by our race leaders. There we have the 17, Eric Lundberg, that does have a fair amount of damage, I believe, on the right-hand side. Again, after the 2 cars, that looks all right, to be honest. The cars that are directly behind him, when they came into the pit lane, a car checked up, and the 17 had to go all the way up into the barrier to get out of the way even. So it's had to struggle with that. However, the pace does look okay from the 17, and all I'd suggest right now is let these 3 go and drop straight in behind them. Just use their slipstream, use their speed, carry along, accept the lucky dog if it happens. If not, just accept your position. You're keeping up with the leaders.
Yeah, that would be the strategy I would go with as well. And, well, for the 17, who also just happens to have the car number that I tend to use as well. So there we
17,
go.
Are you?
Yeah, I'm 17.
Oh,
So yeah, for Herlock Lundberg, just dipping back in line and, like you said, hopefully just trying to follow the leading pack around at the moment. And, well, like I said, his task is just to remain in lucky dog position. If he does fall off the back of this one, then he might come under threat from Marcus Hagman behind, who would be desperately wanting to retake that lucky dog position. But that's all just fighting for something that might not necessarily happen at any point soon.
I will say I think Hagman is going to catch him because Lundberg's last lap time was a 31.6, got super tight running through 3. And you can see there once again, I know obviously running a slightly high line anyway doesn't necessarily mean the car's ridiculously tight, but comparatively to everyone else on the track, he is running a lane higher around the corner, seeming to struggle a little bit with the front right of the car. Gets it down there, and once again it tightens up towards the exit of the corner. This will be great for Marcus Hagman, who is closing in. See what the lap time is from Lundberg across the line this time. Another 31.6, and it's another 31.1. For Marcus Hagman, closing at half a second a lap and closing even on our race leader, so might even manage to unlap himself potentially, could Hagman.
I mean, it is allowed. If you have that sort of pace advantage, you can get yourself unlapped here, which should be well, the situation Hagman's hoping for, because it means, again, if a yellow comes out, he's on the leading line. He doesn't have to pick the lucky dog, so he can get on the right strategy as well and not have to remain out there. So it's, for Hagman, this is a pretty important position to gain back onto the lucky dog, but also to try and catch the race leaders to attempt to unlap himself. So lap number 89 of 200. We're still yet to hit the halfway stage of the race. We're getting close to it, Lewis, but we still haven't hit it yet. And we will at some point, of course, have to go to our little bit of a commercial break, but that won't be happening for another good handful of laps yet. And yeah, Lundberg's really, really struggling here.
Yeah, we are flying through this race, but who knows? We're going to reach the checkered flag before even I was expecting. At this rate, there we go. Door open for Hagman to come through. The number 12 race winner 2 times this season, so knows how to get it done on the racetrack back at Phoenix and at Pocono earlier this season, trying to battle somehow into second in the championship, but unfortunately the consistency of Blixt, and especially the fact that Blixt is leading at the moment, isn't exactly looking great for Marcus Hagman, but the day is still young, and holding on to that position, if he can unlap himself, definitely not out of it.
Yeah, I would say so for sure as well. We are coming on to, what stint are we on right now? 37 laps on the stint, so we are inside the sort of second half of running here for this second stint on the tyres. We'll see if there's any sort of changes with regards to the exact strategy. Of course, drivers sort of trying to divide the race into quarters at the moment. I haven't seen, correct me if I'm wrong, I haven't seen anyone who's trying to split into thirds, though.
No, I don't think anyone's quite been able to make it up. I mean, we did have Daniel Page make it quite deep into the first, I think around the higher 50s on the laps, but not quite close enough to the all-important 66, 67 lap period, which you would need to get to if you're going to third it.
Yeah, so we're still looking at 2 stops left remaining here in this race for, well, everyone, pretty much. Of course, maybe a little bit more if we do get ourselves a couple of cautions in the second half of this race. But green flag running from this point, well, from the drop of the green flag all the way up until this point. Nothing's brought the caution out just yet. And of course, we had a few situations where it would have been justified. Let's just say that, especially with Linus Broström's spin towards the inside in the in the opening quarter of this race. But you know, no yellow flag was flown. The stewards don't tend to get themselves involved in that sort of thing. They just leave it to the automated system, and that's why we've gone green flag all the way, despite having some potentially justified yellow flag incidents.
Yeah, of course, the yellow flag, the automated system does normally require a car to be stationary on the racing surface, which is why I say with the Broston, which normally, you know, typically in real life, if you see an incident like that, it's going to be a caution straight away. In this, you'd need the car to return to the race. But the fact that Linus Brostrom was on the inside, was on the infield of the track, why the caution never came out in that. The thing is, in a race like this right now, is you've got a few cars that are sat there being like, no, please don't, I don't want a caution. Mostly the race leaders, the top three, they don't want a caution. They want this to run green all the way to the checker flag right now. Anyone behind, I mean, it's going to be frustrating for Gabriel Sturr, for Sawicki. They're going to be sat there thinking, no caution, no. Well, they're actually going to be thinking, rather, I want a caution. Anyone the likes of Linus Brostrom or anyone like that, they're praying for a caution right now because it brings them right back into the race. I wonder what camp Marcus Hagman would be in, knowing that he's catching the leaders. I think he would be sat there thinking, I don't want a caution just yet. I'll wait just a little bit.
So there he is, 10th place at the moment. There, where is the cars further down the road? So they're so the leader's doing 129.7s, 129.5s for Slander, 129.7s. What is Hagman doing? He did a oh, excuse me, that was the best laps. I'm looking at the wrong one. The last laps were 131.4, 131.4, around about that mark for the leaders. What about for Hagman? He did a 131.2, so another tenth of a second, pretty much, gained on that lap by Marcus Hagman. So he is reeling them in, but he definitely won't be able to get there by the time this next set of stops arrives, though.
That is a very good point, because of course we are approaching pit stops. Saying, you know, we're quartering them. They are going a little bit further over. I think we're expecting the pit stops to be around about 110 maybe for those that are doing this strategy, because they did pit around about 50, 53, 54, 55. I think they'll be trying to extend it just a little bit. It's not to try and extend the fuel mileage or anything. It's to try and counter a potential caution, because you don't want to be coming onto pit road as a caution comes out. You want to be out there as long as possible.
You really do. And well, but then again, you don't want to miss the pit lane like Hagman and have to do that extra lap and stay out there for a bit. But
exactly.
Yeah, lap number 99 of 200. Just about to get ourselves to the halfway stage, and well, this three-car leading pack has been very, very, very quiet for this second stint. Of course, you got teammates involved in this one, so that's not entirely surprising. If you look at it like that, they're just managing the race here at the very front of the field, and well, they've extended the gap back to Sturr, at least from the perspective of Gunnarsson, by up to about 5.5 seconds at this point. So they've been doing very, very well at managing the pace on this second stint. It's been very, very successful for them. Of course, the only thing that can ruin it, they're probably, apart from Hagman, the only three cars in this circuit, hoping that there isn't a caution right now.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the thing is what they're doing. I mean, they could battle right now. They could go out there. They could race. Of course they could. But they're not going to, because why would they? Because they can see that gap rising. And the whole point of a race like this, as you all know, Connery, and anyone who's done over racing knows, is that these laps are kind of pointless. They don't mean that much. There's only one lap of the race that matters, and that is lap 200. And that is not for a good while yet. So you just want to get yourself to that point in a position to battle for the race win. No point in leading right now.
No point at all. And, well, half the race to go at this point. It's been green flag racing all the way. And, well, hopefully it might be green flag racing from this point all the way to the end as well. And that's certainly what we're going to be looking for, at least in terms of the story so far. Of course, you got that leading three-car pack that has been in that position since the first set of stops, and they haven't fought all that much, as we've already discussed. They're just managing the race. We've got Storr and Sawicki. They're P4, P5, still relatively close, although Storr is now starting to pull away from Sawicki. Page with the recovery drive up into 6th place at the moment, in a bit of no man's land, however, doesn't have anyone else to run with. Having a look back, Linus Brostrom a little bit further back as well. Of course, he's our championship winner. He got that in the bag for the start of this race. However, a bit of drama in the early parts of the race meant that he spun towards the inside and is now back in this position. P7 for the moment, and well, Araldson, I believe that is, as the lap traffic trying to go is along the long way around. Ooh.
I think with Broström, though, we've got to say, credit to him. Of course, the spin didn't give him that much damage, so it's all good. Might have just bent in the rear left just ever so slightly during that spin. But all things considered, the car's fine. Still on the lead lap. Did pit a little bit early, of course, to get off the very worn tyres. You're going to very much scrub them coming across the infield section. We've got a car entering pit lane. Not sure which one that was. Diving down to pit lane. It's Solo. Daniel Solo into pit lane. Of course, did pit earlier on. Had that damage from running into the wall in turn 4. A few cars have been up there. It's a bit of a shame for Solo, who was doing quite well in the very early stages. But then again, you can say that about pretty much everyone on the grid. And Hagman in early as well. Interesting. Yeah. Well, he's not banking on a caution there. He's just like, right, let's we're just going for it.
Well, we'll get a lap or so's undercut on the leaders, so he might, in the right set of circumstances, be able to pull himself ahead of the leaders once they come on towards the pit lane, which will make him, secure him on the leading lap. But we will just have to see. It's a clean stop this time around, though, for Hagman, so no dramas this time around. But the front of the field, vast majority of everyone, not coming down in just yet. So a handful of early stoppers. Are we starting to see the signs of Blix coming in? Yes, he is. Solander's doing the same thing. Same with Gunnarsson as well. So on lap 106, the leaders are in.
Yeah, nice safe entries from all three of these. No need to take an extreme risk bringing it down onto the lane. So they're all into pit road now. For staying out, I mean, for Hagman, he needs to have nailed the last couple of laps, and he would hope that they're being quite cautious on the pit lane entry and might lose themselves a little bit of time, which is time that he could then eat into all in the lane. Obviously, it's going to be 4 tyres for everyone in this little group. You wouldn't really necessarily take 2 tyres. You've got to fill up on fuel to the max anyway, so there's no point in trying to shrink your pit stop too much, and you want to stay in this group. 33 departs this box, little bit further off of the rear end of the 140 of Solander. Now, that might not be great if they all get spread out quite a bit.
Yeah, absolutely. So where's Blix going to come out in relation? Well,
Hagman's got him.
Yeah, here comes, Hagman. And, has he got him? Coming up in towards turn number 3. Not quite. Hagman still has the momentum, trying to unlap himself from the perspective of the cars ahead, and gets himself by and through ahead of Blix. So once everyone comes down in towards the pit lane, that will result in Hagman getting himself back on the leading lap here. Whether or not he'll be able to pull away from Blix is a different issue, but he's already doing a good job of it already. Ooh.
I think we're getting some lifting here from Blixt. So we are getting some lifting for the obvious reason to drag him back into Solander. I was going to say, if not, then actually Hagman awkwardly would help out the person that he's trying to beat to second in the championship by dragging him along. But Blixt has lifted out of that, has allowed Hagman to get away. Now he can break that slipstream, and now Blixt is dropping back towards his teammate. But remember, as much as slipstream is one thing, we all speak of this all the time about bump drafting and stuff. Don't necessarily need to bump draft. The air will do enough to push you along. So if you're working in a trio together, that's why the trio pulls away. Because even if they're running single file, the air is enough to push the car ahead and give it a bit of a speed boost, and that might drag them back into Hagman anyway.
It might do. But then again, even in that last stint with them running as a 3-car pack, they were still going a 10th of a second slower than Hagman was on his own. So we'll see how much that whole pack running is worth here. They might have been going slow and managing the gap deliberately just to make sure that they have the tyre life towards the ends of these stints and things like that, and to maybe try and push the fuel a little bit further. But yeah, we will just have to wait and see, I suppose. We still haven't seen Erling come down towards the pit lane just yet. He's on 52 laps on his stints currently, so it's going to be another handful of laps in him at least here, unless he wants to come down in early. So Erling getting some lead laps logged, and those are worth points.
Yeah, absolutely. It's 5 points for leading laps. It's 5 points again as a bonus for leading the most laps as well. So, like I say, points add up towards the end of the season. You might as well just stay out, add them up. I mean, there's quite a lot of positions that are quite tight in the championship, so you might as well own what you can get. And also, you get a little bit of spotlight as well because you're leading the race. So, I'll take it.
You get your name towards the top of the order. There we go.
Screenshot it, send it to your parents, sorted.
There we go. There's the screenshot for you. There we go. As we see who's coming down towards pit. That's Lundberg with a very scraped up right-hand side of that car. That's been a few too many times close to the wall. But 17 coming down in. Of course, we mentioned his issues with damage a little bit earlier on, not able to keep up with the pace that the leaders were putting down, certainly. Maybe he'll get a little bit of damage repaired here this time coming down towards the pit lane. But of course, you can't always repair all the damage, unfortunately. Just imagine someone with a sledgehammer and a bit of duct tape. That's about how much damage you can get repaired.
Yeah, I mean, I have seen some interesting pit stops in my time, my years of watching NASCAR, where it is literally, like, say, sledgehammer, gaffer tape, see what you can get, see what happens. There you go, that'll do, send them back out, and off you go. On a track, on small tracks, the likes of, Martinsville, Richmond, places like this, you can get away with a little bit of damage. You can get away with a bent fender and all that, as they have really closed in on Hagman as well, which is kind of expected just because of the way Slipstream works. It's just to push them back up as a group. Yeah, you can get away with it at Richmond. You can get away with it at Martinsville on the small tracks. Here, places, all of the 1.5 miles, to be perfectly honest. Places like Daytona, Talladega, Michigan, Pocono, of course. All that lot, you cannot get away with damage. You really, really can't, because even a couple of miles an hour, just that little bit extra drag, it's enough to basically ruin the entire stint, because 0.2 adds up very, very quickly every single lap over a 50-lap stint.
It does, and this is why we talk about the margins being so razor thin in NASCAR oval racing. Because in a road race, you say, oh, half a tenth of a second on that. That's not that much of a gain in road racing. However, in NASCAR, when the laps are going by every 30 seconds, as they are in this race, those do add up, and very, very quickly indeed. This bloke's going to go for the going to put a lap on Hagman again here. I have to wonder, looking to the inside, Hagman maintaining the middle of the road, remaining ahead as well at this stage. But it looks like the now 4-car train looking to try and come through, make it a 5-car train temporarily, with Hagman leading them around despite not being the race leader. But holding on to that final place on the leading lap right now.
Wonder if we're going to see Daniel Solo, of course, a couple of laps down on this group, might try and get ahead of the 33, more so to assist his two teammates that are sat in first and second of Blixt and Solander, where he runs very, very high in 3 and 4. Still no way to get past Hagman. And, of course, I don't think he's not required to jump out of the way, especially considering we know the pace is perfectly fine, and he is just running his own line around this circuit. I'm sure once Blixt has got through, then they might all funnel through, but I would suspect that this isn't going to be the hardest move once it happens, and it looks like it is about to happen.
There we go. So Hagman sort of trapped on that outside right now. Unable to really do anything about the situation. So Solander's going to come through on his inside as well. So that's going to be another car ahead of Hagman, and car coming off the pit lane there. Further down the order, I think that was Kapal deciding to have his pit stop now. Hagman careful not to wash up into the wall. Continuing to fall further back in this train, perhaps. In fact, he's drawing it level with Solander at the moment, but he doesn't have any help whatsoever on that high line. So I think this is going to be a fight fought in vain.
Yeah, it's kind of rough to say it, but it is almost a little bit unnecessary for Hagman. If he drops back onto the rear end of this train and just sits there, he's almost always going to be the first car a lap down. Slipstream given a little bit from Solander to Hagman as they're trying to reshuffle this pack, and Solander wants Hagman behind to depose the 33 of being the third car in line. However, Gunnarsson back to the inside of the 12 and should be able to pick up what would be track position, obviously not actual position. It's still first, second and third running on the inside line. Hagman then drops down to the 4th car in line. 1 lap down on those leaders. To be fair, still not a bad position. Should a caution come out, it is the lucky dog.
It is, although still trying to fight these leading lap cars is Hagman. Gets himself a car length ahead, at least on the run down in towards turn 3 over Gunnarsson on the inside, but Gunnarsson will gain that back to the middle of the corner due to being on the more inside and lower line. So, yeah, I think Hagman is definitely fighting a losing fight at the moment. Solander looking to the inside in the race leader there just briefly. But Blixt still maintains that for now, is getting a huge amount of laps led under his belt. But Gunnarsson certainly not wanting to let Hagman get ahead of him. He needs to keep track of these two teammates ahead of him and keep hot on their heels. Otherwise, his chances at a race win are going to be somewhat diminished.
Yeah, I mean, Gunnarsson's got a really, really good chance this race. Of course, sat there being in the 3rd position. If he can hang on to being the 3rd car in line, just keep up with those top 2, the teammates, they might trip over themselves trying to help one another out later in the race. I'm sure Solander will just sit behind Blixt, at least for the next, let's just say, 60 laps. But once it comes towards the end, we all get a bit greedy. You all want to go for the race victory. Of course you do. And it's just whether he's going to assist his teammate to take his first victory of the season or whether he wants his first victory of the season. And depending on how that plays out, the 33 might sweep through as well, but he's being delayed at the moment by the 12, which is definitely slowing him down. You can see the side-by-side is just constantly slowing those cars down.
It really
especially when you
is.
get that close.
Oh, now they're starting to get the elbows out a little bit. I think there's a little bit of frustration coming in here because Gunnarsson's thinking, what's this lapped car doing? You know, why is he trying to fight me so hard, fight wheel to wheel through every single corner on every single lap here? Now he's starting to get a little bit frustrated. And now Hagman swings around the outside and does, well, not gain any position, but gains the track advantage, the track position over Gunnarsson. And that's exactly what Blixt and Solander wanted to see.
Yeah, and that'll be frustrating for Gunnarsson at the moment, but still not the worst thing in the world. Just keep up with the train. You know, Hagman's plenty fast enough to keep up with the group. Daniel Solo was so close to tapping the barrier on the exit of 4 once again, just behind this group. I think he missed it by genuinely a few millimetres. It really was not much. Now taking a bit of an odd line is the number 13 at the rear of the group, and now is allowing a bit more space to Jonas Gunnarsson, who's just keeping up. Once again, a little bit wide, though, from Hagman. And the Toyota Camry, the number 33, might once again look to pick up that track position.
Yep, Hagman, at least a gesture to the inside, decides to go just half a lane up, though, to try and defend this position. And, well, like I said, it's not really for position. I have to try and add that little asterisk, that little qualifier onto everything else, because Hagman is a lapped car here, but as the rules here in this series, and of course in the Eracing Sporting Code, the lapped cars don't have to move heaven and earth to get themselves out of the way and let the leading lapped cars through. They can fight for their position if they're fast enough.
I will say for Jonas Gunnarsson, I don't know how you feel about this, having driven it and stuff. I tend to get, not like you don't go and drive like it, but you start getting like verbal red mist, just thinking, oh, come on, what are you doing? Get out of the way. And it's kind of like you sat there and you think about it, you think, he has every right to battle for this, but at the same time, come on, get out of the way. That said, he's got to the inside of Andre Solander and is now going to try and split the two teammates up. This might not actually work out for the number 12 because the 33 might try and go to the high side. But once again, just slotting back in line, hearing the all clear from the spotter and picking his moment to return to just behind the two Alcatec NHR cars. I mean, well judged, of course. It's going to be building in frustration in this group. And the thing is when frustration builds, especially with 70 laps left to go, potentially the redness might actually come in and affect the driving to a point and maybe make something silly happen. We'll have to wait and see. Hope not, though. I want to see the three-car race go to the end.
I mean, we already saw how much Gunnarsson and Hagman were leading on each other when they were going side by side. I think there might already be an element of that coming in on lap number 129 instead of towards the final couple of laps of this race. So they have to be so careful, though, because any instant up here that will trigger a caution will mean this advantage that all three of them have been able to gain over the rest of the field is completely and utterly wiped out. You clean the slate for the final handful of laps, or final 2 stints at this point, if we get a caution at this point. So, yeah, it's it's annoying. It's incredibly frustrating if you're in a position such as Gunnarson and even Salander a little bit further down the road, you knowing that his lap car is running you so hard. But you can't let that take over your judgment and make you do something that you regret. Otherwise, well, one, you might be out of the race due to an incident, or two, you might cause an incident and then cause a caution and then wipes up your advantage, which is both very, very bad options.
Again, play the long game. Are you keeping up with the race leaders? Yes. Don't fight it then. Just sit there and allow things to unfold the way they're going to unfold. By the way, there is quite a close battle again, in the similar sense, with a lot of lap traffic involved, fairly a little bit behind this, as Stir is being caught in by Sawicki and Daniel Page, who is recovering quite nicely. But as you can see, there are a fair few back markers involved in all of this. You've got Erling, who's just jumped out of the way of Daniel Page. You've got the 17 of Lundberg as well in this group. And then just ahead of this group as well, you've got the number 64 of Martin Kapal, who was started low, was running high early on, and I think pretty much the story of quite a few people in this race dropped backwards courtesy of some dramatic moments towards that first pit stop.
Yeah, but it has been a relatively calm middle portion of the race for most drivers. Hagman's issue on pit lane notwithstanding in the first stop. But you see Daniel Page now heading to the inside on the 17, that's Eric Lundberg, who's been struggling with damage for the vast majority of this race so far, and despite the trip down towards the pit lane, still seemingly not on the pace of even mid-pack runners. And little contact with the wall is not going to help, is it?
No, that was I mean, I did think when we saw it come into the pit lane for that second time, and you were noting about the damage on the side. When I saw it, as much as there was a bit of damage on the car, I'm pretty sure that has been into the barrier a couple more times this race, and now we can add yet another one to that list, unfortunately, for the 17. The race really, really not working out. But, again, respect to those that are a couple of laps down, the likes of Eric Lundberg, Kapal, Solo, even Ricard Allard as well, who's running in the final position on the racetrack, 5 laps down. They're continuing. They're just keeping going, ready for whatever might throw at them. But also, just to try and finish off this final race of the season, of which we have now passed 2/3 into this race. An hour and 10 minutes of racing done. Does suggest that it will be done in under the 2-hour mark, which, to be fair, means that these drivers are making good time here at Charlotte.
Yeah, you can have dinner at the regular time.
Yeah,
if
exactly.
we finish this race on the current pace. Yeah, that's pretty good, because sometimes these races can go on for quite a while when there's a very big flurry of cautions. But everyone's kept it neat and tidy. Of course, that's not to say we haven't had incidents. It's just not major enough, or haven't given the right set of circumstances for the caution to actually be deployed. So at 136 of green flag racing. And no signs of anything like that happening just yet here in this one. Again, don't want to tempt fate, but it's just the situation that we've been given. But I do have some news, however, Lewis. We'll be live commenting, not having a ad break until the checkered flag.
Well, there we go, running all the way through, and why not whilst we are green all the way through. Let's see if this green lasts, though, and hopefully we're not tempting fate. How many times, though, have you had it in a race? I had it once. I did the NIS at Phoenix last year, and it's that race where you get, oh, there's a caution. Oh, we've gone racing for 1 lap, and there's another caution. There's another caution, and there's another caution, and expletives depart the mouth. It is impossible not to, because it's so frustrating. Once again, you just think, can no one in this grid drive? Whereas this is exactly the opposite, because we've been green from start to finish. And sometimes you might think, can someone be a little bit incompetent for a moment, please? I want a break.
And if there's going to be a caution, I think it might be in this leading pack, if one ever arises, because Hagman is... every single run he gets on Salander, he's sticking it to the inside, he's sticking it to the outside, he's really trying to rattle Salander's cage. And again, there, look, Salander was almost diving into the corner, and Hagman just sticks his nose in there, just says, nope, you're not going to get to the line.
Watch out for the 302 as well on the rear end of this. Ricard Allard, who is 5 laps down, is also a part of this group now. So it's 5 cars in this train, 3 of which battling for the race lead here at Charlotte in our season finale. One of which is causing a little bit of a headache to our race leaders. We'll see if the 12 can clear. And you kind of have to ask, do you really want to fight it too hard? Once again, exactly as you were saying it, 1 lap ago, Solander is trying to commit to the inside line, and the 12 is just going for it. Marcus Hagman wants that inside line through 3 and 4. Now, either that means that Solander needs to be covering it off a little bit earlier, chops across the nose down into 1. Either he needs to make it clearer what line he's taking, but then if you hold that inside line on this back straight, you're then nullifying your run through turn 3 on the entrance, and then you're burning out your front right even more. You're not arcing through the corner in a nice smooth way. This is becoming a little bit of a headache for Solander.
It is, and that just distracts him from the task at hand, which is stay on the back of Blixit, stay on the back of your teammate. Here comes Hagman again down the inside at turn 1, really committing to that line as well. Almost runs into the back of Blixit on the attempt there. Careful not to wash up. Oh, going to get quite close on the exit of the corner. Solander, he needs to be reasonable here. He can't afford to be getting himself involved in an incident here with Hagman. However, aggressively, Hagman wants to drive this one. You know, he's still sticking with it, still sticking side by side. Blix will try to help him out with the slipstream here, but Hagman has a lot of pace. That's undebatable. He's just doesn't have the lap. You know, if this was a lead lap battle going on between these two at the moment, this would be absolutely fantastic. But Hagman's just fighting, trying to get his lap back.
It is very interesting. I mean, I am absolutely with what you just said a little earlier, is that if we are going to see a caution in this race this afternoon, the bet would be that it's going to happen somewhere in this group with how hard they are fighting over track position. Solander, they're holding a very tight line, just basically chopping off the advantage that the 12 had gained by running that inside line. Now clips the grass just a little bit on the infield as he was trying to cut across, looking back to the inside with number 12. And I know we've said it a few times, but once again, not for position. They are fighting this hard to make sure in track-wise they're keeping where they are. Now, just to remind again once more as to why this is important, is that if the 12 gets ahead of Blixt, then back on the lead lap. Now that could open things up in this tight battle for second in the championship. Coming into this round, just 6 points separates Eric Blixt and Marcus Hagman. And so they're just trying to nullify that threat completely even before we reach the final stages of this race. So that's what this is all about right now. That's why it's being fought so hard. That's why Hagman needs to get back on the lead lap, and that's why Solander cannot let him through.
I always have this feeling of just like, I think it might be pushed over the edge at some point. You know, that's the overarching feeling I get. You know, it's, and the later this race goes, the more desperation that there'll be. And who knows what might happen if one driver gets a little bit too desperate.
Let's just be clear, you know, these drivers, they are not dirty drivers at all. You know, they're just racing hard as you would. I do actually have the incident points, by the way, of the entire season from them, as I can see on our championship readout. Across the entire season, both Blixt and Hagman have racked up 16 incidents across the entire season. That's 7 races across the season. Obviously, I don't know how many I've got today, but over 7 races to have picked up basically an average of around about 2 and a bit incidents a race. When you consider how hard they've raced all season, that honestly is actually very impressive. It shows how much respect the grid has. Looking back once again to the inside, Hagman's got the line through 3 and 4. We are approaching the final pit stop of the race. And it's just about how that is going to work its way into these proceedings. Do they communicate that to Hagman as to when the likes of Blixt and Solander are going to pit? You think they've got to. They absolutely have to. If not, there's going to be carnage.
Blixt, as a result of the most recent side-by-side battle that Solander and Hagman have gotten themselves into, has been able to gain a few tenths of a second, breaking away at the front of this pack. I think that will be swabbled up, though, if they get themselves single file once again. But Hagman still continuing to run that inside. But it's getting very, very tricky to pass here at Charlotte, especially if you're on that. You're a single car trying to go down the inside or the outside. It's way more possible if you have help, if you have friends, you know, they're trying to get right onto the back of you and push you along on either one of these lanes. But if you're on your own, like 1 versus 4, basically, which is what the Hagman situation is at the moment, it's a lot more difficult. Again, always diving down this inside. He is going to be burning up his front right if he keeps doing that towards the end of this stint, which means he doesn't have that tyre performance in the dying couple of laps, but it's still competitive.
Yeah. Like you say, making a move around here. Same as with quite a lot of 1.5 miles. Once we've got into this sort of part of the race with the way this generation of NASCAR works, you really do need to make those moves actually around the outside because you carry the momentum off of the corner. If you're trying to make it stick on the inside, it doesn't necessarily work. This one might work for Hagman if he can get just about close enough to Solander just to slow the car down using the side draft, but Solander's pulling the slipstream from Blix, which is allowing him to maintain his advantage. But also, again, as you were saying, by this point, Hagman's probably burnt out, has used a lot of his front right by this point, and might well just not have enough grip to try and make it around the outside. I think Solander had a little bit of a loose moment coming off of 3 and 4, and this is going to allow, I think they're all going to come into the pit lane now. Yes, they are, holding that tight line, allowing Hagman to go through. You had Arlton as well, just ahead of them coming into the pit lane, and then the trio that were battling for the race lead, Blix, Solander and Gunnarsson.
Yep, so there they are, coming down in. Arlson, what's going on here on pit lane? Arlson, I think Blix is saying get a move on Arlson here. Pit lane speed limit is whatever it is around here. You're not going it. Locks up the brakes into his pit box. Gets stationary, however, so that's not too big of a problem. Solander also in, of course, we already mentioned that. Gunnarsson top 3, as that top 3 also in, but that was a bit weird there. With Arlton going, well, at least so slow down on towards the pit lane, as Blix will come out first here with Gunnarsson behind Solander. Actually, Gunnarsson gained the position over Solander.
Yeah, really slow stop from Solander. I don't know if he missed his box and or was just way too cautious, but he is way, way back there.
Yeah, it's 18-second stop. We're usually seeing an average of 14 and a half to 15 is the regular stop time in these cars, and it was an 18-second stop for Solander. That is not ideal. I wonder if we can cycle things back just to see exactly what might have been the problem here for Solander. That is him coming off of the pit lane. We want him coming onto, or at least into his pit box. So there we go, rolling it in. I think he was just slow in. Slow in, yeah. Yeah.
I'm not 100% sure as to why it was such a long stop, or whether he was just stationary for a long time. You'll see it pop up on the left-hand side to change those left side tyres, and normally it's once it's dropped you're ready to go, and there we go, he doesn't move. Yeah, maybe a little bit of damage repair, yeah, potentially, but I didn't see too much contact on him.
Yeah, well,
I don't know.
I don't know, maybe he had a few altercations with the wall that we didn't see, but yeah, that's interesting because it's kind of removed him from this battle for the race lead for the moment. So it's left Blix and Gunnarsson all on their own. Although saying that, Gunnarsson has not had a great outlap, and he's 1.5 seconds behind Blix at the moment. Blix dealing with a bit of lapped traffic, so slowly but steadily working his way through on that. But Gunnarsson didn't have a good outlap whatsoever. The stop was fine for Gunnarsson. It's just Blix has been incredibly quick getting through this traffic on these new tyres.
Yeah, I think it's just the small advantage that he had departing pit lane, and Blix has just gone, right, I'm just going to fire this in. Whilst I've got the grip, I'm just going to try and get through, bam, 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 clearing the traffic as it's come up, and he's made short work of all of that traffic, being fairly aggressive to come through, and now he's leading by a country mile. Of course, remember, after the previous 2 stops, had then dropped back to get some assistance from his teammate, which he dearly needed at that point. But now that Andre Solander is too far behind, Blix is by himself. He's just got to go and do his own thing. He's unlapped himself now and is just clearing off from Gunnarsson. But Gunnarsson's plenty fast enough and is in the slipstream, and it will be affecting him from this point. He will be able to drag himself back up into this group. We'll continue to monitor this. Let's see what the lap times were across this time. Eric Blix across the line at 30.3, 30.1 for Jonas Gunnarsson. That is all slipstream, so we definitely will have 2 cars for the race lead here.
Definitely will. Whether or not it'll be a 2-horse race all the way to the end still remains to be seen. And of course, have that always looming threat of a potential yellow flag as well. Martin Kampal coming down in for his final pit stop of the day. Hagman still remains out there, by the way, and here comes Storr down in, trying to get down to the pit lane speed limit. But Hagman is still out there logging laps. He's hoping for a caution right now. And then, of course, once he gets onto the fresher tyres, he'll have well, pressure tires for the rest of the race. Maybe he can get past the race leaders and unlap himself in the final stint and then hope for a late race caution.
Yeah, like I say, I mean, to be fair, if I was banking on a potential late race caution, I'd say you're either praying or you're kind of misguided based on how this race has been. I would be sat there and all of my strategy right now would be banking on the fact that there is not going to be a caution, that we are running this green all the way to the checkered flag. We haven't had one in an hour and 23 minutes of racing. I don't see why we'd have one over the next 20-25 minutes right now, because everyone's been driving so well, been driving hard, been driving aggressive, and right now everyone's just doing whatever they can. But, you know, I mean, for some of these cars that have had not the greatest race, of course they're going to take a gamble. Why wouldn't you take a gamble?
Yeah, you know, you might as well go for the Hail Mary attempt right now, you know, especially given it is the final race of the season, the last opportunity. Try and score yourself some points, trying to get yourself ahead of some of your competitors. You know, why not go for it? Especially if the race hasn't gone your way so far, like Hagman, for example. You might as well just throw something out there, just going, okay, you know, I'm just going to do something weird. It has a low percentage chance of working, but I have nothing to lose already, so why not?
Yeah, indeed. I wonder what position... So Sawicki, by the way, has been into the pit lane, as we can see. So he's going to be dropping down the order as he comes in for his final stop. But Daniel Page, going to go up into 5th spot, might well end up in, to be honest, 4th by the time that Marcus Hagman enters the pit lane if there's no caution. And Marcus Hagman, I believe, now is dropping down, not into pit lane, but is dropping down the positions. I've nearly got a bit of panic there. Does mean that he's going to go and see Solander in a second. I'm sure that'll be a slightly faster battle this time than it was a few laps ago.
Yeah, Hagman's just keeping it out there, I think, for no other reason than hoping for a yellow at this point, which will then give him a pit stop, which will then put him back, perhaps, if the rest of the field comes down towards the pit lane, back into 3rd place, which would be absolutely crazy. Gunnarsson, by the way, got himself ahead of Blix just in the last couple of moments there as we were looking at Hagman. So let's see exactly what happened between those two there. As it's now Gunnarsson in the race lead, and well, it took the best part of 2 stints and a bit for this to happen for him, but race lead for the moment for Gunnarsson.
Yeah, just a nice little look to the inside at 3 and 4, and it was not fought at all by Blix. I think Blix will just sit there and conserve tyres and then start going on the attack. This is kind of the part of the race where, for these two, they're going to assume that this is going to be a 2-horse race, because they can't start thinking about all the what-ifs, the this, the that's. They're just going to be like, right, if this is a 2-horse race, how do I beat you? How do I get ahead of you at the right time? When do I make that move? Because there's no point in leading now, other than maybe scoring your bonus points. It only matters about leading in around about 30 laps time, about timing that move. If you can guarantee that you can get past before the start-finish line, then don't pass until you know that that is your opportunity. Because around here, like I say, it's fairly open. There's no point in trying to burn out the tyres. I wonder, though, if Blixt has the idea to try and slow Gunnarsson down by battling with him to maybe drag Solander back into it.
Well, Solander is near enough 2 seconds adrift of this battle at the moment. So here comes Blix down the inside again. Gunnarsson leaving that one go. So not going to try and fight too hard for this one. So another orchestrated swap at the front of the field results in another lead lap by Blixt. So yeah, I have to wonder what the situation is here. What the overall game plan is for Blix, because you know he would be quite right in just making this a 2-car battle all the way to the end of the race. But you know, if he can get Solander into this one and get Solander a couple of more points as well, that would also be beneficial. 2.5 seconds now is the gap back to P3, so it is coming down. Solander's closing in.
The only real issue here, though, is that Solander doing this is absolutely destroying his tyres, trying to close down on the top 2. But you kind of need to at the moment. It's now or never. If you're going to assume this race is going to go green to the end, you can't wait for the potential of a caution or wait for anything. Then there's no point in trying to look after your laps and then come out 5 seconds short by the checkered flag. Go for it now. Give it everything you've got. Sure, you might burn your tyres out. You might drop back into the clutches of Daniel Page and Gabriel Sturr, who, by the way, are battling it out over 4th position at the moment, just inside the top 5. Hagman's got past Sawicki for 9th place, so we are seeing some position changes. There is the battle for 4th between the 19 and the 16. Where they're going to end up in the race, I'm assuming it's probably going to stay in this position of 4th and 5th, but you never know, especially if there's any drama up towards the front. Who knows if we're going to see a caution in this race?
Who knows? We've gone the the first three quarters of it, green flag racing. The last quarter, well, it's the one that we're in right now. And look at this Sturr down the inside, coming off of turn 4. He's been able to find the line. There's a bit of lap traffic ahead of them as well. That's Araldson in the number 24 car. You can always identify him with the purple and gold livery. But Sturr gets himself up into 4th place quite securely as well. Bit of lap traffic also wanting to try and work its way through on these guys as well. There you get past Araldson. And there's the number 64 car. That is Martin Kapal, who's on 2 lap fresher tyres, but seemingly trying to drive around Araldson like he's got a million lap fresher tyres.
Yeah, every time I see that car, I'm at the front of it, I'm thinking, what is it? What is that car? It's a Ford Mustang with a VW front end. Classic. Of course it is. It did really throw me off a little bit. You can only really see it from the rear end, being like, oh, yes, it's a Volkswagen. Of course it is. Like you say, with those two battling it out ahead of this, they're doing a good job battling it. But for Daniel Page, from 13th up to 5th, I think he'll be happy with 5th. I think he'd want 4th, but I genuinely, when you look at how the day's gone, 5th place is good. Has not been the smoothest start to the race for Daniel Page, but is in the position that matters now.
Having a look at the progress of Hagman. So Hagman, he's almost 3.5 seconds off of Araldson, which is the lucky dog position at the moment. The first car a lap down. So that's the first task for Hagman. To try and get that away, just in case there is a late race caution, so he can get himself back on the leading lap. He has the freshest tyres of pretty much everyone, at least everyone that's undamaged at the moment. Eric Lundberg does have 3 lap-all tyres, however, we saw how much damage that 17 had over the course of this race, so it's not going to be on the pace, no matter if there's new tyres or old on that car. But yeah, the overriding arc of this race has been green flag, green flag, green flag all the way. No signs of yellow just yet. But, you know, motorsports does tend to throw up these surprises, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I can't imagine what event recently, would have
that. Yeah, no, I was sat there watching this race that we all know what we're talking about, but just in case, I'm not going to say it, just in case, you never know. You kind of sat there, you're towards the end of a race, and you think, yeah, this isn't done yet. There's just a vibe. You've got this thing in this thing in the air. This race, I'm sort of 50-50 on. I'm really not sure. Obviously, the main thing to speak of now is that if we were to get a caution, is about tyre allocation. They are allocated 5 sets of tyres for the race. Now, if you account for the start and then for the pit stops that we had, they've all got a set of tyres left, as far as our calculations would suggest. And so, in that sense, it's up to you whether you pit or not, whether it's a 50-50. I think if you weren't to pit, if there was a caution, you're going to be a sitting duck and you're going to be going backwards. I would absolutely be taking tyres, even with 10 laps to go. Absolutely take tyres. Hey, even if it's a green-white checker, if I'm towards the back, I want a new set of tyres.
Yeah, that's for sure. That would be the option that I would go with as well. Oh, I saw someone dropping down the order. I thought it was an incident, but no, it's just Robert Erling coming down
Loving the look
towards
of
the pit lane.
yellow.
It gave me a bit of a heart attack there when I saw so much red on my timing screen, but no, it was just a pit stop there for Robert Erling. We stay green here with lap 175 of 200, so it might be about time to go. Laps to go instead, 25 to go.
Yeah, well, that saves me trying to calculate it in my brain. I do always say you should never trust a commentator's maths, and I was trying to work it out. I'm like, no, don't do it. It's fine. By the way, just ahead of, I think it was not too far ahead of our race leaders, Ricard Allard has been into the barrier once again, unfortunately, up at the high side of T2, which I was a little bit concerned was going to be a caution, so I was almost in the same boat of you looking out for it. What has happened to Jonas Gunnarsson? Because he's dropped off of Blixt into the clutches of Solander, as we can see on our screen. Now, bearing in mind that Gunnarsson was battling for the race lead, something's gone on here.
having a look to see if there's any 2x that that Gunnarsson got with a contact from the wall that we didn't see. I'm not seeing that on my list right here, so I'm not sure. Maybe he's deliberately dropping back into the real estate of Salander so they can work as a 2-car team to then get a big run over Blixt. But then again, Salander is Blixt's teammate, so he's sure not going to help Gunnarsson to try and get ahead of Blixt. So, this is an interesting one here. We'll track the laps as they are running through at the moment. They're 1.4 seconds off the back of the leader, excuse me, as Blixt is the only one at the very front of the field. And we'll see what the lap times are this time across the line. Blixt set a 29.736. What's the time from Gunnarsson? It is, or not 29.736, excuse me. I'm looking at the wrong times again. I'm looking at the best laps instead of the last laps. Last lap, 31.4. No, the 31.174 for Blixt, a 31.066 for Gunnarsson. So now he's starting to close back in bit by bit by bit, 10th of a second on that last lap. So maybe he's just saving tyres a little bit in the earlier part of this stint to then have a good run at it towards the ends. But losing that much time in the process, not great.
No, I did just rewind to go and have a look at what happened. And honestly, unless something's just happened that I didn't spot, whether it was tyre wear or whatnot, he just dropped off the back of him. It wasn't anything past that. I think Blixt just went, right, let's turn this up a little bit and try and pull away. Gunnarsson didn't go with him, just again, like you say, looking after the tyres and playing the longer game. Or maybe his tyres did start to go off of Jonas Gunnarsson, and as he's dropped back, as he's got Andre Salander behind him, basically working as an engine from behind, pushing the air to the rear end of Gunnarsson's car, and that's what's pushing him back up. Either way, I believe what we're going to see, Connery, is a nice 3-car fight for the race lead, 2 of which are teammates. And you, again, have to ask the question, are they going to work together or are they going to work against each other? Because at a race like this, you've got to leave it between the drivers, I think. You've just got to let them race. And I don't think Alcatech NHL would treat it other than that. I think they're just going to go, whoever wants to win. Go for it.
Yeah, I mean, that's the ideal situation that we're hoping for. Gunnarsson is back within a second of Blixt now, so it was a drop back, but he's been able to reel him all the way back in with the help from Salander behind. So, you know, getting some instances quite close, so he's able to push him along with the bubble of air, shall we say. But coming up towards 9/10 of a second now, so Blixt is going to be looking at that on his F3 blocks, just seeing it on the relative, saying, okay, you know, the 2 guys behind me, they are catching me, probably in communication with Salander as well, just to give you know, a couple of updates of how Gunnarsson's been running. But yeah, with 18 to go, this race is still a very big unknown. Big question marks over who's going to finish first, second, and third. It might be these 3 cars, but in which order, I don't know.
Yeah, it's really strategic right now. Is looking to the inside. There is Salander picking up potentially second position on Jonas Gunnarsson. Either way, this is going to slow them down considerably and is going to allow that gap to be built up to Eric Blixt. Jonas Gunnarsson, aware of it, drops straight back in line behind the 140 on the start-finish, down towards 1 and 2. Now, this is where things get very interesting. For a race that is, you know, you're just going out there. This is just a stint of the race. It's remarkably strategical. The strategy is going all the time. When do I push? How hard do I push? Etc. Etc. And not even in the boring way that we've seen in other styles of racing. It is just eyeing it up, seeing that gap, feeling the grip in the car. It does seem as though Blixt losing a little bit more time over the previous lap, although I'm pretty sure their lap times were separated by just a few hundredths of a second, if anything at all. This race isn't over yet, but Blixt does just seem to have the time in hand to keep those 2 at bay, and now with his teammate behind, he is very much in the most favourable spot.
Now, it comes down to the whole team situation, like you mentioned, Lewis. You know, is Alcatech going to let these cars race, you know, between Blixt and Salander? Is that going to be the situation, or is Blixt telling Salander, okay, do as much as possible to try and slow the run from Gunnarsson, just make sure that you stay about that second behind me, and make sure that I can take this race win. Currently, though, it looks like Salander is still closing in on his teammate of Blixt, back down to within a second, and coming down more and more and more. So I think the situation might be, Lewis, that they're going to let them race for the win at the end of this one. they're just not quite close enough to be able to do that just yet.
Yeah, and too right. Let him race. Absolutely. We'll just say for Blixt right now, if he finishes first, second, I think even third, based on where Marcus Hagman is, second in the championship is his, but he wants to end the season not only second in the championship, but with a race victory. Those around him in the championship, of course, Linus Broström winning the championship, has had 2 wins this season. Marcus Hagman behind has had 2 wins. Aroldson's had a win as well. You want to add yourself to that winners list, of course you do, and it's just where you can't necessarily afford to let it slip through your fingers.
Not at all, and well, we'll see what happens in the final 13 laps. There's a bunch of cars behind this one are also similarly catching. In fact, Gabriel Stür's only about 2.5 seconds off the back of Gunnarsson.
Oh yeah.
So those guys are really closing into the stage. It's a fact of 31-second flat from Stür last time by, which really reeled in this little pack as well. So it might not even be a 3-car train for the race lead. It might even be 5. Like you said, Stür and Page could get themselves involved in this one, given the right set of circumstances, especially if this front 3 start fighting in amongst themselves.
Yeah, I've just taken a look at Daniel Page. Absolutely glued to the rear end of Gabriel Stür, not going for a move, not going for anything. Stür's getting a little bit of slipstream as well by a couple of back markers. This is quite good for that, and also a little bit of assistance from behind. You'll never guess who that is. Yes, of course it's Marcus Hagman, just assisting these two. Not fighting. Again, they are thinking bigger picture right now. They are thinking, let's work as a train. Let's push ourselves up towards that lead group, and that gap is being detonated.
I think the front 3 are thinking, wait, is that Marcus Hagman's music? And then they just see this train being pushed by him coming up in their wing mirrors. That might be the situation that they're seeing here. 11 laps to go. Blixt's advantage has been cut down to just under half a second back to Salander. Gunnarsson, of course, as he has done so through basically 3/4 of this race, remaining in that 3rd spot, just watching, waiting, making sure he's in the right position to do what he needs to do inside the final couple of laps. It's been pretty well executed up until this point, but now it needs to finish and blow.
Yeah, and this is it. We are in the tense moments now. Just 15 miles left to go in the season, a little bit less than that now as we're just ticking them off. It's been a fairly long season, 8 races up until this point, 200 laps here at Charlotte to round out the season, and the championship was already settled. Linus Broström's taken that, and we can see that in the fact that he's driving around in a gold car, but the final race win of the season is most certainly not sorted. Half a second basically separating your top 3 at the moment, but the chasing pack is closing in every single lap they complete. The head of that pack is Daniel Solo and Robert Erling, who's just leading that group, but obviously they're a few laps down, but the focus in that group is towards Stür and Page, who are closing in on the group and the actual battle for the race lead. 8 laps to go at Charlotte. This is certainly not done.
This is setting up to be a fantastic finish, and remember, if Stür and Page get themselves onto the back of this leading trio, they have fresher tyres. They'll be able to have so many more options when it comes to overtaking. They have about 5-6 lap fresher tyres than these front 3. So if it comes to that situation, then Blixt, Salander, Gunnarsson are going to be worried sick about the pace of those cars behind them. So if there are any passes done amongst these top 3 in these final laps, it needs to be quick and clinical by whoever's doing the overtaking. Yeah. Any side-by-side battle that plays into the favour of those 4 from back.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's what they just need to avoid. I know it's 1.6 seconds. It still might not come down enough to be dealt with by the checker flag and drag them back into it, but if they do get there, they're going to be coming with a full head of steam, attacking this group, leading the race. 6 laps to go. I told you, time and time again, we've all said it. Me and you both have said it on various occasions, Connery, that you don't need 40 cars to make a good race. You only need 2, and in this case we only need 5, and apparently a couple of back markers as well, because despite having just a 14-car grid, we have a 5-way fight potentially for the race victory. 5 laps to go at Charlotte.
Blixt still leads, teammate in 2nd place with Andre Salander. Gunnarsson 3rd place, still waiting in the wings as they head their way through turns 1 and 2. with 5 to go. No moves being made just yet. I think they're aware of the situation that's going on behind them with the pack closing in on them, and that pack, every single time we get that camera down the back straight, it just seems like getting closer and closer and closer, because if you look at the timing, they indeed are. Stir is almost a second off the back of Gunnarsson with 4 to go.
Yeah, this is getting tense and tense. 2 teammates leading the way at the moment, but for Jonas Gunnarsson, when does he start making his move? Because every time they go through a corner now, it is opportunities wasting away. 1.1 seconds back from Gunnarsson to Stir. The gap's closing in. It's getting tighter and tighter. Stir's clearing off that group of back markers behind him, but as he looked to the inside of the 13 behind, he's just lost out a lot of time. The gap's going to grow once more. Was not able to clear Daniel Solo, and to be fair, Daniel Solo, he's there to assist Eric Blixt and Andre Solander right now.
Yeah, that might be the roadblock that those two need to keep Fortham back out of this race-leading battle, as the gap has sort of stalled at about a second, 1.2 seconds behind at the moment. Solander getting so close to his teammate on the way in towards 3 and 4, but not going to go for a committed move just yet. They're going to try and fight this one fairly between the two teammates. This is, the last thing you want to have is contact between the two teammates, as, well, it's now 2 to go across the line, and it's these front 3 that will try and figure out what order they come through onto the checkered flag and what order on the podium they get.
Yeah, any contact between this group, and, well, you know what's going to happen is that chasing pack is going to come straight through. Jonas Gunnarsson so close to the rear end of Andre Solander. White flag will be in the air. 1 lap to go. Eric Blixt is going to try and hang on. I think Andre Solander is doing all the work for him, though.
Yeah, I think so too, as they head their way through 1 and 2 for the final time. Still no move from Solander. Maybe he's more concerned about Gunnarsson behind. Gunnarsson hasn't really shown any threatening moves at this point in these dying couple of laps. Maybe the tyres are just not there. Onto the back straight for the final time into 3. This is going to be the last ditch move if there is any.
Yeah, let's see what they can do through 3 and 4. All things looking very clean. Of course, you've got Linus Broström, who is our champion, directly ahead of this group, but it's not going to be enough. Foul of the final corner. Eric Blixt crosses the line, and for Alcantech NHR, they take it at Charlotte. A 1-2 for them, with Andre Solander behind. Jonas Gunnarsson did not have the pace to challenge. He tried to battle Blixt earlier on, but late in the race, it just wasn't there. Shout-outs to Stir and Page, who take it to 5 cars within 1.5 seconds after 200 laps of green flag racing here at Charlotte in our season finale of the European E-Racing League. That was superb. There's our champion. He had it sorted out last round, but just came in for one final hurrah.
Yeah, absolutely. So Linus Broström heading his way through as the champion. Didn't really matter where he finished in this race. He got that in the bag before we had the drop of the green flag here at Charlotte Motor Speedway. Only 1 drop of the green flag, as well as we've gone 200 laps of racing without a single caution. There's the celebration there from Eric Blixt, with his teammates lining up on the line behind him as well. Alcantech have had a fantastic race here today, and a well-managed one at the front.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it does take some numbers, and they had numbers. They had numbers in the right place at the right time, and they played their cards very, very well. Andre Solander definitely needs a good old hug from Eric Blixt after that one. Did all of the work. Bearing in mind, though, they did not qualify particularly well. 9th place for Eric Blixt. Andre Solander started from 11th, and by the way, there we go. More drivers joining them for donuts. And to be fair, 2 right as well. Final race of the season. Why not get out there? Oh, a little bit of contact between Daniel Solo as Arlton just spanned that one up right in front of him.
Yeah, there we go. As they'll continue to celebrate not only a race well run, but a season completed as well, as we will just dip away from all that and go through your final finishing results for the final race of the season here in the European E-Racing League. Lewis, take it away.
Well, Eric Blixt took him all season to do one, but the runner-up in the championship does finally have a race victory to add to his name. Andre Solander, though, assisting out with that one to make it a 1-2 for Alcantech NHR. Jonas Gunnarsson was fighting for it after the final pit stops, but just did not have the pace to try and challenge for the race lead. He'll settle for third position. Gabriel Ster and Daniel Page battled it out all the way through the final few stints of that race for fourth and fifth. Linus Brostrom, our series champion, the last car on the lead lap, just about by the end of the race, but unfortunately was spun out in the early doors and had a lot of work to do past that point. Marcus Hagman, after missing his box, he dropped way down the order, was battling a lap down, trying to get his way back onto the lead lap. Unfortunately, wasn't able to do so. Sawicki Aroldsson from pole position down to 9th place, and Erling with some damage early on, unfortunately just 10th place on the road for him. We did have everyone finish the race though, and that is definitely something that we need to give a round of applause to. Martin Kapal started from the rear of the field, got up into 11th position, did get up a bit higher than that earlier on in the race. Eric Lundberg visited the barrier on the exit of 4 a fair few times throughout that race, and Daniel Solo actually assisting his teammates a bit later on in the race, despite being 4 laps down, by just trying to keep that gap between Stur, Page and the lead group. Ricard Allard, the final finisher on the track, 14th and last, unfortunately.
We didn't have any retirements today either. There we go.
No.
Everyone running at the very end. So despite the slightly thinner fields here today for this one, we still had a fantastic race at the Charlotte Motor Speedway for 200 laps of green flag racing. That was pretty crazy. It got pretty tense towards the end there, but I don't think any of those front three really had the tyres or the intention to try and fight for the final lap there. But it got a little bit sketchy, because if this race was probably a handful of laps longer, Lewis, that second pack would have been right there.
No, and that's exactly what we kind of expect in this style of racing. Is the thought process going into it is never a simple one. It's all about playing the long game, playing the cards right, and they did that all the way throughout the race. It was interesting to see them playing the long game even with one final stop to go. I mean, that style of racing takes some bold strategy and some big bravery as well on making sure your tyres stay in, and Eric Blixt played it perfectly. But again, it's not just one driver that takes victory. It's, you know, the entire team behind him. It's everyone who's helped him out in those positions, and it's been fantastic from start to finish, this race.
It really, really has. And, well, it certainly had the potential for drama. We got that in quite a few forms here today. Of course, we had a couple of early incidents that did not trigger any caution flags. Of course, Brostrom would have looked to have a little bit of a better day here today as well. But either way, he's championship winner, regardless of what happens here at Charlotte. But with that, so that's going to be the end for us here, at least in the Race Sport TV commentary box. Myself, Kari Maddock, and Lewis McGlade, of course, taking you through the call for this evening's event. We're going to send it back to the studio, where we'll have the post-race show. Bye-bye.
Amazing race, 200 green laps today at Charlotte, and you finished in third position. Talk us through your race tonight, Jonas.
Yeah, like you said, third position, best result for me this season. The race was try to undercut the whole time and follow the Alcantech cars.
That was the game plan from the start to the end, more or less?
Yeah, it was.
How come you ended up in the third position and not really went for the win? Or talk us through a little bit of the mindset there. You dropped back to Cylinder, I think?
Yeah, I picked up Cylinder. Is it now I'm gonna announce I'm gonna drive with Alcantech next season? So I try to help them get a 1-2.
Great moment to do that, and that explains a lot of confusion from the race spot guys. And I was like, what's wrong with Gunnarsson? He's picking up Cylinder. He's a teammate of Blix. He won't help Gunnarsson to win this race.
Yeah, I thought it would be a great start in a new team and just try to help them and pick up Cylinder and them get a 1-2.
Helping them to get their first 1-2 and first win of this season at the European E-Racing League. Amazing race for you tonight, Jonas. Congratulations.
Yeah.
Will we see you in the next season in this spring that will follow?
Yes, it will.
Hopefully we'll do that. Congratulations and Merry Christmas, Jonas.
Yeah, thank you. Can I say thank you to my sponsor?
Of course.
Superior Import.
Thanks to Superior Imports that's been around. Thank you, Jonas, and congratulations for your third position. Nicholas, do you have any questions for Jonas? No? Okay.
No, not right now. Good race.
Yeah, thank you.
Jonas Gunnarsson is announcing that he will move to Alcatech NHR next season, and we'll go on and see if we can get a talk with André Solander and see how he is doing later on.
Yes, I will.
André is with us, and
Yes.
this is how he looks like. Second place finish tonight. How does that feel?
Yes. It feels really good. Finally, another good result in the EL.
Ending the season with 1, 2, and 3 as Jonas announced that he's moving to Alcantech NHR for the next season, or the manifest has already been done for this race. And amazing start for him and an amazing ending of the season for you guys. The first win of Eric Blix this season too. How talk us through the race? 200 green laps at Charlotte. Did you plan to do that? Did you plan out a zero caution race tonight, or?
No, really. We just first of all for the first pit stop, we figured that because it went green at the beginning, we expected it to go green really long. So we did do a undercut on the first pit stop, and then we had a really good gap for the second pit stop. So we felt we didn't need to do an undercut. We just needed to respond to the cars behind. When they were pitting, we could maybe do 5 laps and then pit together. And that was the way we worked. Maybe we pitted a little bit too early on the last pit stop, but it worked out really well at the end still.
Yeah, Paige and Stir were closing in on you, the closing laps of the race. How did that feel for you guys? Did you get any stressed of it, or did you feel that you had the whole thing under control?
No, so of course you're looking at the gap and you're really trying to push it. I made a mistake also at the last pit stop, so I fell a little bit back. But together I caught up to them and we could really work things out together. And yeah, I think a little bit worried when they were catching at the beginning really fast, but at the end we really saw that okay, now the gap is slowly decreasing. So
is there anybody you want to thank before we carry on with the broadcast, Andre?
Yeah, of course I want to thanks Alcantech NHR. This has been my first season in this team, and really great to end the season with the 1-2 finish and also Jonas as a new recruited guy.
Congratulations on that finish. Amazing end of the season for you guys.
Thank you.
Finally, the guys from Alcantech reaches out and grabs that win that we've been talking about in the whole season. I mean, Eric Blix, of course, have been running and collecting a lot of points all through the season, and he has been in the points lead. But this is the first time that he actually takes a win in this series. And of course, we want to know what took him so long. Why did he wait until the final of the season? He will probably be here with us anytime now. Nicholas, have you got in touch with Eric?
I think he should be here now.
I am here.
Congratulations on the first win. What took you so long, Eric?
I don't know. I'm gonna blame the car, like every decent racing driver. So yeah, well, the whole race pretty much got won on strategy this time. So was pretty calm sailing from the first pit stop there where we managed to undercut. We got a decent gap out of it, so we could save a lot of tires and let Marcus catch up to us and be even on tires again. So
it looked like you managed to exit the pits and after the first pit stop round together, so you could work with each other in the draft and so on. And obviously, you were the guy leading the pack the whole race. How did the communication between you guys look like? I mean, was there a specific reason why you were leading the pack, or was just that how it happened?
Well, the race isn't really fuel dependent unless something strange happens, so we'd rather just take care of my front tires, have them good for a battle in the end if we end up with it, and just keep racking up the lead laps and get a point to that.
And you're blaming the car, and
Yes.
the European E-Racing League will most likely, it's like 99% carry on with running with the Xfinity car next season. How do you feel about that?
I feel it's more like a driver's car. You can work with it. If it doesn't suit you, just drive the rears of it and know it's loose. Like you can adapt more to it, and I'm all for adapting to not so good cars.
Not so good cars, more challenging ones. All right, Eric, congratulations to the second place in the championship, because I think you sealed that now. With this W you got here, and congratulations to all in all a great season for you.
Thanks. It was a up and down season, but yeah, good results in the end here.
Before we carry on, is there anybody you want to thank?
It's just all of Alcantech SimLab, Numa Racing, all the teammates as usual, and also Gunnarsson this time for dropping in and helping us here in the end of the season, and thankfully joining us for the next one.
Yeah, he talked a little bit about that, and of course Gunnarsson have been stronger and stronger for every race the whole season. He has a really strong fall this year, and it will be really interesting to see what you guys in Alcantech can do with him and his talent.
Yeah, for sure. He's been improving a lot, and we've been having our eyes on him. So yeah, we think it's a good place to pick him up right now, and before he learns bad habits, we can make him what we want him to.
With that being said, congratulations, and I hope to see you next season when we start again in the end of January and the beginning of February.
Definitely.
Alright, my ladies and gentlemen, this last race winner, Eric Blix, and we will have a short talk with the champion. We talked with him last race where he sealed the championship, but since he had a quite tough day tonight, we will ask both of them if, how he feels right now. Linus, are you with us?
Yes, I am. Hello.
Hello, how are you?
Good. That did not go the way I had expected, but still came home with a 6th place finish, and the championship was already secured, obviously, and we did enough to secure the team's championship as well. So despite the little mishap, I managed to recover to 6th place finish and get the job done today. So in the end, I think I'm feeling pretty happy still.
Just another day at work, so to speak.
Well, pretty much. Not the way I had expected the race to go, but we recovered and did our job. So yeah, I guess in the end.
In the end, is there anybody you want to thank before we carry on with the end of this season and this is the last broadcast of it?
First of all, the whole team. Alexander for having a great season alongside me to get this team's championship, scored a quadruple this year, and Marcus and Robert and the other guys for keeping up the whole season and just pushing on to make good results, and then you guys for putting on the broadcast and race spot as well obviously, and then you for starting the team from the beginning and everybody in this series for making it happen. Just hope we'll get a better turnout next season, but it's been a fun one. So shout out to our partners as well, Capabar and Battle Rift for this series.
Thank you, Linus. We put a lot of hours in the series and all the efforts around it, and we hope that season 2 will be even better than this one. As you said, not very many drivers in it, but the quality of the drivers have been amazing, actually. Some really good names out there competing in the European E-Racing Series. And of course, as you said, the race spot guys have really lifted the broadcasts to the race spot level, and everybody that's into iRacing knows what that means. So once again, congratulations to the Drivers' Championship. Congratulations to the Teams' Championship in the European E-Racing League. Nicholas, is there anything that you want to talk with Linus about?
No, I think just a big
You
congratulations.
had enough of Linus now.
So it's been a really good effort, and yeah, good luck in the future.
Thank you.
Yeah, Nicholas, should we round out this season?
Yeah, I
is
think
there anything
I think so. It's been a good season, really fun one. Good to see some oval racing between European drivers, and yeah, as Linus said, I would like to see a better turnout, but I think next year we'll get that and some more good racing.
Yeah, I think so too. And I mean, this was step number 1. The first season is always a little bit of a rocky road, and in terms of in this case the turnout of the drivers. So I mean the number of the drivers, we put the limit quite high, since you need 2,500 in iRating. I mean, there is a couple of thousands of guys that has that in Europe, but everybody needs to be able at this time every week also.
And I think it was a little bit of a gamble with the car, and it was a new car the next time.
Absolutely.
And, some people love it, some people hate it, but I think we got good racing, especially today with no cautions. I think this car can be really good.
Yeah, as we talked about in the beginning, both NASCAR and iRacing are working with this car and developing it further, so it will be repatched in the future, and we're not sure where it's going, but there have been a very let's say a lot of drivers in this series want to drive the Xfinity car instead, and I think they can put out some really good racing in that car too. But of course, we're not really 100% decided, but we're really leaning into that.
Yeah. But I think that's all from us this year. Hope you enjoyed the broadcast and the season, and big thanks to all the drivers who was driving, and
yeah, amazing that week after week turning out and doing this race, and for all of you viewers and our partners, Glurmaster and Logitech, that's been with us. He's in studio too, for making this series possible, and for RaceBot adding the cherry to the top of this dessert, that is the European E-Racing League.
and we're really looking forward for another season together. So just keep posted, and we will be back in the end of January or in the beginning of February.
Yeah, have a good one, guys.
And have a good one, happy holidays, and happy New Year.